Bishops has been the best team in this conference all season long. The Gators are ranked second in the nation. Queens and Bishops, it's right there in black and white. The Queen is the most powerful piece on the board. And this season, Queens' most powerful player has been tailback Brad ELBERG. He's rushed for close to 1,000 yards and is a big reason the Golden Gales are here today. The Bishop can be equally dangerous in the game of chess. And Bishop's most dangerous player has been quarterback Jim Murphy. He's passed for 2,000 yards and rushed for 6 touchdowns. The question today is, who will outmaneuver whom? Making all the right moves for Queens as he has for the past 17 years is head coach Doug Hargraves. Masterminding things on the Bishop sideline is Ian Breck. Today, it will be checkmate. Bishops and Queens are next on TSN. Presents C.I.A.U. football. Today from Lennoxville, Quebec, it's the Ontario-Quebec final, the Queens Golden Gales and the Bishops Gators for the Dunsmore Cup. Today's game is brought to you in part by Geo. Get to know Geo at a Chevrolet Geo dealer near you. And by Pepsi. Gotta have it. Hi everybody and welcome to Lennoxville and the Ontario-Quebec Championship featuring two longtime rivals, the Bishops Gators and the Queens Golden Gales. The winner of this game gets to go to the Churchill Bowl in the warm confines of C.I.A.U. It's not that warm here right now. -5 degrees, but the wind makes it feel a lot chillier than that. And once again, joining us on our C.I.U. telecast is TSN football analyst Jamie Bowen. Jamie, the field here is very sloppy. You've got a running team in Queens, a passing team in Bishops. Who does it hurt the most?
Well, I think it hurts Queens the most because Queens is not a power running team. This is a team that relies on the quick trap. They like to pitch the ball outside. And when you hit those sloppy conditions, it's hard for people to cut back against the flow and cut upfield. So I think they have to favor Bishops.
Now, this is a very solid Queens team, one that lost to Bishops earlier in the season. Who are the keys for them?
Well, no question. The key's going to be in their offense because Bishops has a pretty good defense. We've all seen them play this year. I mean, they are really, really good. And their quarterback, Tim Pendergast from Queens, is going to have a good day for them today. He struggled a little bit throughout the season, but they think that he's going to have to get his game back on track today and throw the football effectively, even though they only throw it 30% of the time. Now, Queens' running game, synonymous with that is Brad ELBERG. Not only is he the best running back in the O-QIFC, but he's also Queens' best receiver. He's leading both in rushing and receiving. Brad ELBERG is an explosive back, has great speed, good strength. He'll carry the ball 70% of the time today for Queens.
Now, in Bishops, you've got a team with kind of a finesse offense. They like to throw the ball. They run a complicated offense. Can they do it today?
Well, I think so. I mean, this is a team that likes to play here in Lennoxville. The conditions really suit them because we talked about the field conditions. And it's going to be up to their quarterback, Jim Murphy. I mean, everybody thought this guy, you know, he was a backup quarterback to Silvio Martel, the all-Canadian quarterback. But now Murphy's had a great year, the best quarterback in the O-QIFC. Many feel the best quarterback in the nation. He's the guy that makes this offense go because they throw the ball 90% of the time. And he throws it to a lot of different receivers. He'll pick on, you know, Misaki Kono, looks to David Butler. But the guy I think he's going to go to today big time will be Alain BEAUDOIN. Now, BEAUDOIN doesn't possess great speed. He only runs a 4.8 40. But this is a guy that has the most yardage per reception, 20.8 yards. This guy is the guy that's a big play guy for them.
Tell you what, almost everyone's 40 times will be identical today. It's going to be a little sloppy out there. Prediction time is it's conference final weekend. Both you and I are 7-2. Who are you picking?
Well, I picked Queens to win the O-QIFC at the beginning of the season, so I still have to stick with them, even though I think Bishops have an advantage. And
I picked Bishops to win the Vanier Cup at the start of the season, so I'm going to go with the home team. Coming up next, two teams that know each other well and don't like each other much. It's the Gators and the Golden Gales coming up next. For the third straight year and the fourth time in 5 years, it's the Queens Golden Gales and the Bishops Gators in the final of the Ontario-Quebec Football Conference. Queens last went to the Vanier Cup in 1983. Bishops, despite its outstanding record as one of the nation's best football schools, has never been to the national championship game, a string that Ian Breck hopes to end this season. If he does it, his team will have to be able to execute its complicated offense, its passing offense, on what will be a very sloppy field here in Lennoxville.
And Ian Breck has done a great job in this program, 34-11-3, as we take a look at the veteran, Doug Hargraves, 17 years. The Queens Golden Gales has a very impressive record in his own right. Hargraves, 105 wins, 48 losses, and 3 ties, while the Queens. And Gord, a year ago, these two teams played in this game, and it was only 3 points the difference. Queens managing to edge out Bishops 34-31 in a very exciting game, went right down to the last minute.
Back to kick it off is Jamie Galloway for the Queens Golden Gales, who, as you might expect, will be wearing the gold. Deep to receive are 3 men for Bishops. Masaki Kono, number 2, Joel Kruzich, number 17, and Tom Hart, number 20. And we're set to get it underway for the Dunsmore Cup. The kick goes deep to Kono, who takes it at the 20. Masaki Kono's got some room, and he's got some blockers in front of him all the way up to the 45. He lost the football. The ball is loose, but Bishops got it back. An early break for the Gators as Masaki Kono had the ball come loose, and that may be a problem today as the football will be slick. This field is wet, and the ball will be too.
Well, Masaki Kono is an inside receiver used to carrying the football. Now, he should have the ball in the other arm because all the flow is going to come from the inside out, and you can see the ball get stripped right here. They had a pretty good wall set up. Kono lucky to get the ball back again to give Bishops very good field position for their first possession.
1st and 10 from the 49-yard line for Jim Murphy and the Bishops Gators offense. And immediately the toss goes out to Claude Seren. Seren up the close side of the field, and Seren has about 5.
And you know, it's funny, all passing teams always start out this way. They always seem to want to run the ball as if they're going to try and fool Queens, if they're going to run the football today. You won't see that very often. Pretty good group. Murphy, the O-QIFC quarterback, Seren, McCarthy, great set of receivers, Butler, Beaudoin, Kono, and Hart. Offensive line, not big, but boy, experience, and they do a great job of keeping the people off of Jim Murphy. Hatfield, Bourget, Doucette, Zabo, and Bjorn.
On 2nd and 4 from the 54-yard line, option. Murphy will take it himself. He's got the first down, and he carried that football dangerously, but Jim Murphy has the first down of the football game for Bishops.
Hey, Jim Murphy's coming out here and throwing a little bit of the old Queens offense right back at the Queens defense. It looks like he's running option here. Fakes to McCarthy inside. Now he attacks the perimeter, and nobody has contained. Everybody went inside with McCarthy. Now, Jim Murphy better make sure that he kind of hook slides. He doesn't want to be standing up making himself a big target when he's running the football.
Max Turner was up to make the stop. Bishops is in Queens territory. 1st and 10 from the 48-yard line. And the toss goes to Seren. Claude Seren around the right side. He's got room, and he's close to a first down. Tackle is made by number 36, Peter Payne, one of the most appropriately named football players in all the country.
Well, they're really catching Queens off guard here. Queens are in a pass posture defense, expecting Jim Murphy to throw the ball. They decide to pitch it. They pull the right guard, Joey Savo. He kicks out number 60, and Seren just follows the blocking.
On 2nd and 1, Murphy is getting out of trouble, but not for long. He's sacked way back at the 48-yard line. Peter Payne up again to make the stop. And a loss of about 9 yards for the Bishops quarterback.
Now, one thing about Doug Hargraves and Queens defensively, they do not want to allow Jim Murphy to have time in the pocket today. You're going to see them play a lot of man coverage in their secondary. They're going to bring their linebackers. That time they brought Peter Payne, got into the backfield. And that sack forces Bishops in a punting situation where Greg Hiscox.
Hiscox will kick from about his 45-yard line. Back deep to receive Steve Jovanic and Mark Morrison. And a high spiraling kick by Hiscox sends Jovanic back to the 5. He's got a little bit of room, but he's brought down by Joel Kruzic after a return of about 12 yards. And we'll see the Queens offense and their man, Tim Pendergast.
Now, Tim Pendergast, an experienced veteran. Talked to him during the week, and he said he's a little disappointed in the season so far this year. His numbers really haven't been up to where they were a year ago. Last year, throwing for 1,300 yards. This year, only managing just a little bit over 900. And a lot more interceptions than touchdowns, and that's one thing that's really concerned him all year. Now, we saw Bishops come out right away running the football. Queens run it 70% of the time. I would not be surprised to see them try and throw the football in this situation.
The man to watch is the man deep in the eye, number 1, Brad ELBERG. We'll see if he can operate on this slick field. He gets the carry right away, got through the initial tackle, and now ELBERG is brought down by, among others, the defensive lineman, Kent Rao.
Pendergast, quarterback. Paul Beresford will split that spot with Paul Kozan, a fullback. ELBERG is the big tailback. Receiving corps pretty good. Right, Weir, Jovetic, Ed Kidd is the big receiver on their offensive scheme. Offensive line, a real problem for Queens Golden Gales this year because of injuries. But they managed to fill in Robinson, Harpel getting his first start, Black, Defoe, and Kirkwood.
Gain of 5, 2nd and 5. Here comes ELBERG again, but he didn't get far. As all over him right away was Paul Connery and number 92, Eric Edwards. Paul Connery, number 75, got into the backfield quickly and stuffed that ELBERG run.
Again, they try to go off tackle with Brad ELBERG. You can see Connery, the nose tackle, slide off the block of Tom Black, and then Eric Edwards, number 92, the linebacker, comes in. And what a powerful defense the Bishops Gators have. You know, everybody talks about their offense, but boy, defensively, fewest points allowed, 76 ranked, number 1. Look at that, total yards allowed, 231. Incredible. That is a good group of people.
And that defense came up quickly to stop Queens. 2 and out for the Golden Gales, who will now be forced to punt on 3rd and 4. Jamie Galloway will kick it. Back deep to receive Tom Europe, Matt Lang, and Joel Kruzic. And Bishop should get good field position out of this, as Galloway will have to punt into the wind. Low end over end punt. It's away. Not very good. Taken at the 45 by Tom Europe. Europe lost the football. Europe lost the football, and Queens has it back. So for the second time, a Bishop's returner mishandled the football. This time, Queens gets it back, and the Golden Gales offense will return to the football field.
Well, this is unusual. Tom Europe's usually very sure-handed carrying punts. He's got the ball in the right hand, but Paul Beresford comes up and puts his helmet right on the football and strips it. Good job fielding it, the ball in the right hand. I thought it was 23 came in there and put his helmet right on the ball. Big break for Queens.
Don Rorwick, the backup running back who plays on special teams, had the recovery. It's 1st and 10 now for the Golden Gales. New life from their own 33-yard line. Just underway in the Ontario-Quebec Championship. And Pendergast will throw for the first time. Hung it up, and almost catching it was Ed Kidd. But that ball hung up dangerously. Back on the coverage was Matt Lang.
Well, Tim Pendergast is trying to throw to a spot, hoping that Ed Kidd could get there. Come out semi-roll, play action pass. They try to keep ELBERG in the block. He's looking for the linebacker. Now he throws the ball before Ed Kidd makes his cut. Throws it to a good spot, but it's just a little bit too far in the outstretched hands of Ed Kidd.
Now 2nd and 10 from the 33. 10.5 minutes to play in the first quarter. Pendergast, nobody there. Intercepted by Tom Europe. And Europe quickly atones for the mistake on the punt return, and Bishops will have it inside Queens territory at the 52-yard line. Once again, it looked like he was throwing to a spot, Jamie, but this time there was nobody there.
Well, he was looking at Brad ELBERG. Now watch, they're bringing Kruzic, number 17. The safety's coming on a blitz. It should be out here in man coverage. You can see nobody's over with Tommy Europe. You see Brad ELBERG, number 1. He's just trying to turn around. I think that Pendergast thought that that Brad ELBERG's going down the field. A great interception by Tom Europe, but there's nobody out there to cover.
No score in the first quarter. Bishops and Queens. And the Dunsmore Cup is on the line in Lennoxville. The Queens defense allowed just 12 points in the first quarter all season long. It's a pretty good unit, Jamie.
Yeah, it is. Lewin, Dell, Zerany, Johnson. The linebackers are probably the best. Boone was an All-Canadian back in 1990. Peter Payne and Greg Brick. Good set of linebackers. The secondary, they got their group back intact again. McCormick, Turner, Dagnoni, 7 interceptions on the season. Morrison and Patterson, that group accounted for 22 interceptions in 1992.
The Tom Europe interception gives Bishops a first down at the Queens' 52-yard line. Here's Claude Saran. Trying the left side. He puts his head down and gets about 5. Tackling the play by Mark Morrison.
The Queens aren't doing anything fancy on defense. They're coming out with that 43 exchange look. They have 4 down linemen. Really, Johnson and Lewin are listed as linemen, but they're really linebackers. They're playing the 3 linebackers inside. They're playing man coverage, and they're coming with all sorts of people.
Screen pass, and they were looking out there to Mike McCarthy, but the pass was just out of his reach. And as a result, Bishops will be forced to punt. The conditions have to be difficult today, Jamie. The wind is blowing, the field is slippery, and it's pretty chilly.
Yeah, it's not the greatest conditions in which to play football, but you know, if you come to Lennoxville and you play at Bishop's University, you're used to this kind of weather in October, because this is a team that has been in the playoffs for a lot of years. We talked about these 2 teams playing in the Dunsmore Cup for the last 5 seasons.
This is a good spot in the field for a fake. We'll see what Bishops has going here. Hiscox is back deep. And Hiscox will kick it away. This Mark Morrison took a look at it, let it roll out of bounds at about the 17-yard line. They mark it at the 16, and that's where Queens will begin its 3rd possession of the football game.
Tim Pendergast coming out after throwing that interception in the last series. We talked about some of the problems that he felt he had this year. He threw 9 interceptions and only 4 touchdown passes. He would like to have had that reversed.
Now the key to Queens has been fast starts this season. In the first quarter, they scored 71 points. That accounted for 1/3 of their point total this season. They averaged 10 points scored in the first quarter, only 2 against. So far here, there is no score. And here's the fullback diving in, and that is Paul Beresford, number 23.
Number 75, Paul the Slapper Connery.
And take a look at the 2 defenses against the rush. You can see Bishop's number 1 in all the categories against the pass, total yards allowed. Now, actually, against the rush, that should be reversed. Queens is actually 2nd against the rush, 6th against the pass, and they're playing against a pretty good passing team this afternoon.
Gain was 4, 2nd and 6. The fake to ELBERG, and now they throw it on the flat, complete there to Paul Kozan. Kozan has a 1st down. He's tackled by Don Simpson.
Paul Kozan, tackled by number 8, Matt Lang.
Well, Kozan, and we talk about Brad ELBERG. Both Brad ELBERG and Paul Kozan are out of Regina High Schools, and they're both in the back door right now. Pendergast does a nice job of taking what's available. Kozan out into the flat. Does a good job running the football up the sideline, gets his shoulder square.
Kozan had only 8 catches in the regular season. He's got 1 here today so far, and it gives his team a 1st down. And that's Kozan again off tackle. Didn't get much this time.
Shades of option right there. We're looking at Queens coming out and running that package. They haven't run it in a while. We talked to Doug Hargraves, and he said, yeah, we're going to try and run everything we possibly can today as we take a look at Kent Rao, big defensive lineman, 6'7", 235 pounds, a pretty tough individual to throw over.
The gain for Kozan was 4. It is 2nd and 6. And again, he's intercepted. Picked off by Eric Edwards. Pendergast is intercepted for the 2nd time, and Pendergast takes it down to the Queens' 26-yard line. Paul Kozan made the tackle. It's outstanding field position for the Bishop's Gators. 2nd turnover of the game by Queens.
Well, we talk about the effect that big defensive linemen have, and I think that was a perfect case in point. Tim Pendergast dropping back and see Kent Rao, number 78. He's looking for Ed Kidd down the field, but he does not see Eric Edwards stepping in front. And this has to be a nightmare for Tim Pendergast, because in the game earlier in this season when they played Bishops and lost, he threw an interception similar to this to Eric Edwards, who ran it in for a touchdown.
1st and 10 from the 26. They fake the Saran, throw it to Tom Hart in the flat. And Hart got a few as he was wrestled down by Joel Dagnone.
Eric Edwards, the O-QIFC nominee for the President's Trophy, which will go to the most outstanding defensive player in the nation.
No score, but Bishops is threatening midway through the first quarter.
Come and bring them out, and the 6-pack will look with
Queens and Bishops are scoreless in the first quarter. 7:04 to play in the first quarter. They've been playing a lot down at this end. And it's getting sloppy. And no surprise, Jamie, you took a look at this field yesterday, and it was pretty damp. On 2nd and 8 from the 24-yard line. Bishops after its second interception of the game. And the pass is dropped. Looking over there for Jonas Raymond, and Jim Murphy's pass was just flat out dropped.
Yeah, that's something that's unusual for Jonas Raymond, the kind of season that he's had so far this year. One of the top players. We saw them play 2 weeks ago against Concordia University. He was one of the big players in the game, hauling down a touchdown pass.
And now Greg Hiscox will check into the game and attempt a field goal from 32 yards.
Well within his range, but the field is really sloppy where he's trying to kick the football, so I have to watch his plant foot.
And there's a bit of a crosswind as well. The officials wait a moment and then call it good. So Bishops hits the board first. The interception by Eric Edwards leads to a 32-yard field goal by Greg Hiscox, and Bishops leads it 3-0. We've seen 3 turnovers in the ball game so far, Jamie. 2 interceptions by Bishops and a fumble by Bishops, and that will obviously be a key part of the game.
Yeah, no question. I mean, these are the kind of games where you cannot make mistakes in big games. And so far, Queens, I'm sure Doug Hargraves has told his offense, listen, we've turned the ball over twice. We're lucky to get out with only having 3 points scored against us. Let's just settle down and stick to our game plan and run the football. I'm surprised they haven't tried to get outside it all yet.
The handoff to Brad Elberg. Elberg tries to stretch it outside. He gets around Tom Europe. Europe brought him down. A flag is down, and that will likely be a face masking call. Joel Kruzic got a hand in there on the face mask, and I believe that will be the call.
Well, this is what makes Elberg so good. They're trying to go off tackle. He sees it's nothing there. He takes the ball and goes outside. Now, he says he possesses great speed. Gets outside, and you see Tommy Europe coming in the corner, grabbing underneath the face mask and hauling down Brad Elberg. Joel Kruzic comes in to help out.
The penalty will move Queens into Bishop's territory for the first time today. 1st and 10 from the 52-yard line as the gain from Elberg gets a 15-yard addition to the face masking penalty. They give to the lead man, that is Paul Beresford. And Beresford didn't get far as the tackle was made in the play by Danny Bohink.
You know, I'm surprised right now. Bishops are playing a 44 stack defense, and I think they're weak right now in the corners outside because they've got all their defensive back people spread deep in the secondary. If they're going to run option, I think Pendergast has got to fake that inside and either carry it himself or pitch it. Force the contained man to either take the quarterback or the pitch man. I think they're weak outside.
On 2nd down, Pendergast to throw again. And this time he completes it out there to Steve Jovicic. So after being picked off twice in 3 attempts, Pendergast gets one out there to Jovicic. Martin Pepman makes the tackle, but not before a first down is recorded by Queen.
And you know, Tim Pendergast, a pretty smart quarterback. He's trying to keep the ball away from Tom Europe, the other corner. He's going to go over and test Martin Pepin. He's only in his 2nd year.
1st and 10 from the 36. Option. Pendergast carries himself but slips. And once again in C.I.A.U football, once you're on the ground, even if you haven't been down by contact, the play is blown dead immediately.
Tim Pendergast carried the ball 14 times this year. Not a great average, actually, only 3.1 yards, but nevertheless, he can escape the pocket and he will run with the football.
Well, I wonder if he's gun shy about throwing at this point.
Well, I think he's gun shy about throwing it to the right. I think he should come back to the left again and work a little bit more on Martin Pepin, the corner on the left side.
On 2nd and 8, over the middle, and they rule it a catch. It's complete there to Ed Kidd, and Kidd should have the first down, which he does.
Ed Kidd, the former quarterback at Queens, recruited, back up his first year to Tim Pendergast and his 2nd. They decided he was too good of an athlete to have him sitting on the bench, so they decided to make him a slot back last year. Turned in a pretty good year. 11 catches, 193 yards, 1 touchdown.
The gain was 11. 1st and 10 from the 24. Again, the option to Elberg. Brad Elberg gets it outside, and he's tackled there by Brian Wardrop, but not before he had about 8.
And there's that option. Now, Pendergast deals the ball a little bit earlier. Elberg's got a shot. And Brian Wardrop, the linebacker, trying to scrape across, but you can see he's got all sorts of people in his face. Brad Elberg, the pitch back on the option. Pendergast kind of hesitates, gets it to him, but Wardrop scrapes across from his linebacking spot and makes a tackle.
2nd and 2. Here's ELBERG again with a first down inside the 10-yard line. Tackled by Marty Pepin.
First down.
So Brad ELBERG gets the legs churning, and now Queens is on the march.
Yeah, Brad ELBERG, we talked to him during the week, and he says, you know, all I want to do is play, scout, coach, eat, sleep, and breathe football until I die.
First and goal.
He's a pretty intense player. Doug Hargraves said if he had 24 players like that, he doesn't think a team in the nation could touch them.
First and goal just inside the 10. Here's ELBERG again. Second effort, and he's down close to the goal line. Wardrop again makes the stop, but ELBERG did a good job of getting through the initial penetration by Bishop.
Well, you can see the kind of strength that Brad ELBERG has. You know, he bench presses over 400 pounds, 5'10", 205 pounds. Good block there by Dan Wright, the tight end. But you see how Brad ELBERG keeps his feet moving and gives that second effort.
Might have been a hold on the end of the line there. ELBERG already has 6 carries for 31 yards.
And you look at his average in the year, close to 8 yards per carry. Out of Regina, Saskatchewan.
Second and goal.
Was not recruited by any universities in Canada.
Seventh play of the drive. Second and goal from the 3. ELBERG inside.
Brad ELBERG.
And still no indication from the official. They're saying it is third and goal from the 1.
Gators hold. He's stuck. Third down. At the bottom number 8.
Doug Hargraves decides to go. Third and goal from the 1.
Now Pendergast has 4 touchdowns this year, primarily on quarterback sneaks.
Pendergast straight ahead. Touchdown, Queens. So after surrendering the field goal to Bishops, it is a touchdown for the Queens Golden Gales.
Third down and 1 on the goal line. They like to go with the quarterback sneak. You see the 2 lead backs go to the left. Danny Bohin tries to get in there and stop him. Actually, Pendergast loses the football, but not before he had broken the plane of the goal line.
Davey Galloway for the convert to make it 7-3. Which he does. And the Queens Golden Gales have the first major of the game. It's the Ontario-Quebec final for the Dunsmore Cup. And we'll be back to Lennoxville, Quebec in just a moment. Tim Pendergast had his troubles early on in this football game. He was picked off twice in his first 3 attempts, but then he engineers a 76-yard, 8-play drive, and a very key drive it was, Jim.
Yeah, key drive coming back, especially after the turnover and Bishop scored. But you know what was important in that drive, Gord? The fact that they threw the ball successfully a couple of times. They mixed it up with the run on the pass. As you see Pendergast talking to Bob Howes, the offensive coordinator for the Queens Golden Gales.
A Queens graduate and a former Edmonton Eskimo. Bob Howes. Galloway to kick it off. 2:20 to play in the first quarter. It's 7-3 Queens. This is heading towards the sideline where it's taken by Tom Hart. Hart hesitates a moment and gets up close to the 35 before he's bounced out of bounds. And the tackle is made up there by Greg Brick. And now the pressure goes to Jim Murphy and the Bishops Gators to get something going here with 2:13 to play in the first quarter. The wind is kind of at their backs, although the wind is blowing across the football field. First and 10 from the 33.
Sorry, Gar, one thing about Jim Murphy, he'll just keep pulling that trigger, though, all game long. This is an explosive football team that can score anytime.
Murphy's under pressure right away, and he is dropped. Sacked there by Mike Boone, who got in right away, and Murphy couldn't get away.
And I'll tell you what, Queens are awful lucky there because they ran a route down the field where Alain Baudouin was not covered. James Patterson, the defensive back, was looking around to see who had him. And Murphy trying to pull up. Pretty good pressure. Jamie Lewin and Mike Boone.
Loss was 9. It's 2nd and 19. And all of a sudden, it's the Bishop's offense that is stalled. Pressure again on Murphy. Steps up, throws across, incomplete. He was looking over there to Masaki Kono, but good coverage on the play by James Patterson.
You know, Queens defense are doing a pretty good job of trying to keep Jim Murphy in the pocket, making him step up and try and pick out the open receiver. Queens aren't doing anything fancy on second down. They're just trying to play man coverage and bring their linebackers. As Greg Hiscox is in once again to punt.
And back deep to receive once again is Mark Morrison, number 28, and Steve Jovic, number 16. This should result in good field position for the Golden Gales, who lead 7-3. 1 minute to play in the first quarter. Pressure on Hiscox. He gets a good high kick away. Mark Morrison has trouble with it at the 40. Now he scoops it back up, and Morrison doesn't get far as the tackle is made by John Gooby. An excellent punt by Hiscox, and a return of just 6 for Mark Morrison.
And Mark Morrison's from your part of the country, Okotoks, Alberta. Queens have guys from Regina, Okotoks. They've got them from all over the country here. Tim Pendergast, a fifth-year quarterback out of Schollard Hall in North Bay.
And I know that his brother, Jamie Pendergast, who played for the Golden Gales, is watching this game in Edmonton, and he'd like to say hello to his brother. First and 10 from the 46. And they give to the lead back, Paul Beresford.
Number 23, Paul Beresford with the
Beresford is tackled on the play by Joel Kruzic.
with the tackle.
They alternate the fullbacks, Jamie Beresford and Paul Kozan.
And you know, Beresford last year was a slot back, did not play fullback inside. You can see they're just trying to run draw inside. Bishops are going with 6 defensive backs right now. Joel Kruzic is in the football game.
Gain of 7 at 2nd and 3, and here comes ELBERG again. ELBERG pulled over one man. He ran right over Keith Rao, but Danny Bohink makes the tackle. It'll be close to a first down on what should be the final play of the first quarter.
Bottom, number 78, Kent Rao with the tackle. Third down to 6.
And they'll mark him short. It is 3rd and inches. But the officials want to take another look at it.
Third down and a decision to go.
ELBERG is about a foot short by the look of it.
Man down on the field for Queens.
And there's an injured Queens Golden Gale in the play. It's Dan Wright, the tight end, number 72. As they take a look, and I'm not sure why they're measuring this. It's fairly evident that they're a yard short. But they get the confirmation on it.
Down in about 2.5 feet. About right, Tim?
And as they sort that out, there is no time left on the clock here in the first quarter.
We see Dan Wright going off the field, suffered all injuries, a lot of injuries this year, but this is his first game back playing at tight end. They would hate to lose him.
They'll run one more play here in the first quarter, so barring penalty, this will be the final play of the first quarter. 3rd and inches from the 54-yard line of Bishops. Pendergast straight ahead has it easily.
Number 10, Tim Pendergast keeps for the first
Pendergast
down.
has the first down, and that should mark the end of the first quarter. 7-3, the Queens Golden Gales lead the Bishops Gators. The second quarter is coming up next. Tight end Dan Wright has received some attention on the Queens sideline to his injured left knee, but appears to be all right. He's a key part of this group.
The offensive line, these guys have been kept together with Band-Aids all year long, but they're doing a pretty good job here so far today.
First and 10 from the Bishops 52. Again, it's the lead man, Beresford, and Beresford has about 7. He's tackled by Benoit Dolarue.
Well, Queens like to run the inside trap. And one of the guys like to try to run it with is Paul Beresford, the fullback. They love that trap sweep offense, and we saw it in action there.
The gain was 7 at 2nd and 3 from the Bishops 46-yard line. ELBERG tried to cut it back inside, but nothing doing. Danny Bohink leads a group of Bishops tacklers, helped out by Eric Edwards and by Brian Wardrop.
It's kind of interesting what Queens are trying to run there. They're trying to run off tackle, but they take their left tackle, Mark Robinson, and they put him in a pass protection scheme. You see how he's retreating number 62 at the top of your screen. It didn't seem to work at all. Nobody bought that. Trying to influence people to get them working up the field, and then they run ELBERG underneath. Not that time.
On 3rd and 3, Jamie Galloway back to punt. 3 men deep for the Bishop's Gators. Wobbling punt that almost hit a bird. Taken by Matt Legg at the 10. And Legg didn't get far.
35 yards, taken by number 8, Matt Legg.
As he's tackled by Eric Dell, number 65, and Bishop will once again start deep in its own territory. That punt almost hit a seagull in the air. I've never seen that.
Now I wonder, would Galloway have been charged like we saw a few years back with
Dave
Winfield in Exhibition Stadium?
No, I think the local constabulary is a little more forgiving. 1st and 10 from the 17-yard line for the Bishop's Gators, who trail 7-3. And right away to pass, Murphy throws it out again to Jonas Raymond, and Raymond can't squeeze it.
Looking for number 88, Jonas Raymond, 2nd down.
You know, I'm trying to look and see. Jonas Raymond's not wearing any gloves, as a lot of receivers do on days like today. And you can see that Jim Murphy now going for the quick pass. But again, is somebody in his face, number 32, Mark Johnson. But those are the kind of catches that you have to come up with in the game.
Murphy is 1 of 5 passing for 20 yards so far. 2nd and 10. And it's almost intercepted.
Murphy looking for Raymond.
Again looking for Raymond, but Mike Boone almost got it.
3rd down.
You know, Jim Murphy was looking at Raymond the whole way, and there were 2 guys on him. He's going to have to try to start looking off people. There were 2 guys on him, and then actually Mike Boone was underneath and almost came up with the interception. Well, take a look at Jim Murphy's head. You'll see number 88 just cut across your screen right there. He's looking at him now the whole way. You see, even when Boone there was 2 other people there. There was Mark Morrison was there, and also Joel Dagnoni.
Hiscox is once again back to punt, and Queens is winning the battle for field position. High snap. Hiscox, the low end-over-end punt that is taken very quickly by Joel Dagnoni. Flags are down. There will be no yards against Bishops. The tackle is made by number 91, Danny Bohank. But a heads-up play made there by Joel Dagnoni to field that ball.
That's a great play by Joel Dagnoni.
Yards, number 50, Bishops, 1st down.
And the reason they're going to call that is because the rule states that the onus is on the kicking team to locate the football, and Chris Doucette did not locate it. He was just running down the field trying to cover the punt.
Referee Bob Butler with the call today, and it moves Queens all the way down to the Bishops' 24-yard line. 12:25 to play in the 2nd quarter. And Pendergast to pass under pressure, gets it out there and completes it to Steve Jovanic. Jovanic does some fancy running.
Pendergast to number 16.
Got about 5.
Tackled by number 92, Eric Edwards.
Eric Edwards again to make the stop. He's a busy man today.
Yeah, busy man. They spread everybody out, and so they vacate all the linebackers inside. Pendergast pump fakes. Now he goes out to Jovanic. And now he decides to cut it back inside. Pretty gutsy move, because that's where all the big people are, the linebackers like Eric Edwards. And Jovanic is not a big football player, 5'8", 175 pounds at a Oak Ridge Secondary School in London.
Gain was 3 at 2nd and 7. Pendergast again to throw. And this time he completes it in the flat to Paul Kozan, the fullback, but Kozan is brought down well short of the 1st down by, guess who, Eric Edwards.
Yeah, the leading tackler on this Bishop's Gators football team, and more importantly, what Eric Edwards does here as a linebacker, he stops Paul Kozan from getting his shoulders up the field. See how Kozan tries to turn and get up the field? No, Edwards is not having any of that. He's making sure that Kozan's going down.
So Jamie Galloway will be on to attempt a field goal from about 24 yards.
And Galloway's had a pretty good season, 8 of 10 in field goals. His longest is, I believe, 38 yards, as I can see it right there on the screen.
The kick will come from the 25-yard line. His first kick was good from 32. And this time it is wide to the left. Don Simpson takes it in the and concedes the single point that will give Queens an 8-3 lead. Queens didn't like the call. They thought that might have been good, but it wasn't. And it's now a 5-point lead for the Golden Gales. But give credit for that single point to Joel Dagnoni, who quickly fielded that punt, drew the no yards call. However, Queens was able to get only a single point out of it.
Jamie Galloway trying to plead his case with the official.
At their own 35.
Trying to get a ruling. Steve Othen, the holder, the backup quarterback, he was visibly upset. He thought it was through, but the officials stand right underneath the goalpost, and they had the best look at it.
So now Bishops will scrimmage 1st and 10 from its own 35-yard line. Last two possessions, they've run a total of 5 offensive plays. They give to Claude Soren on the ground. Soren picks his way through the middle and has a first down. At least he'll be close, depending on the spot. Tackled by Jamie Lewin, number 29.
You know, Ian Breck has seen what Queens are starting to run on defense. They're playing all-man coverage. They have 6 defensive backs in the football game. That makes it very vulnerable to the run game because Queens' defense is in a pass posture right now.
And they go with the no huddle, and very quickly Bishops has the first down as Soren was marked just short on that first carry. And this time, it was the quarterback carrying the football as Jim Murphy just went straight ahead and got a couple. 1st and 10 now from the 47-yard line as Bishops works quickly. And the pass intended for Masaki Kono, but it falls incomplete.
Second down.
So Jim Murphy and this Bishops offense move to the no huddle. What would be the reason for that, Jamie?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is stop Queens from making any kind of adjustments on second down, because after that play, we just saw Greg Brick, the linebacker, go out, and Max Turner, a defensive back, came into the football game.
Now on 2nd and 10 from the 47. Murphy slips, regains his footing, and throws it over the middle for Tom Hartman. A nice defensive play is made as knocking it down was Chris McCormick. McCormick got the hand in and knocked that pass away.
So this is great defense by Chris McCormick. Good coverage, and he steps in with the left hand and knocks it away without touching the receiver. I mean, that is excellent defensive coverage by the corner.
And Hiscox will be forced to punt once again. His last punt traveled just 21 yards. Low driving kick taken by Jovic at the 33-yard line, and Jovic didn't get far. He was tackled by Chris Doucette. It's a 5-point lead for Queens. 9:37 to play in the first half. Back at Coulter Field in Lennoxville, Quebec, the Bishops Gators at home to the Queens Golden Gales. The winner of this football game will head to the Churchill Bowl next week at C.I.A.U. And the week following that, it's the Vanier Cup. Queens leading by 5. Scrimmage is 1st and 10 from its own 38. The fake to Brad Elberg. Pendergast to throw. And it's incomplete as he's looking over for Ed Kidd. Coverage provided by Matt Legg.
Matt Legg breaking up the pass.
And yes, the chess theme is everywhere. Bishops and Queens. Who shall be the king of the O-QIFC?
2nd and 10, Queens.
Second and 10. Pendergast has time. He was looking over there for Rod Weir. Weir broke the pattern inside, and the pass went outside.
Well, that's just a case of the quarterback and receiver not being on the same page. Pendergast thought Weir was going to hook out, and instead Rod Weir hooked in. But, you know, I think Pendergast right now has to be pleased with the kind of pass protection that he's getting from the offensive line. They're keeping people out off his face. He's got to settle down in there a little bit and just take his time because things are there for him.
And Bishops now has 10 men on the line. J.P. Schwind is the man they would like to get inside to block it. He's number 35. Here he comes, but he can't get close. And the punt is taken by Matt Legg, who dropped the football and managed to get it back just in time. Bearing down on him was Eric Dell, number 65. Matt Legg just got the football back, and Ian Breck's team got a break there.
Here you go, defense.
Jim Murphy is 1 of 8 passing in the football game for 6 yards.
Well, he hasn't had much help from his receivers. He's had a few dropped as well. But Jim Murphy's the kind of player we saw him play here a few weeks ago against Concordia. Did not start off particularly well, but he just kept pulling that trigger, and sure enough, boy, they explode, and they can explode very quickly.
1st and 10 from the 39 for the Bishops Gators, who trail by 5. Claude Surratt. And he ran right into Peter Payne. But Payne might have got the worst of that as Surratt picked up about 6.
Jim Murphy had a great season, 1,800 yards, passing 13 touchdowns. You know, this is a great offense for a quarterback of his caliber. They like to throw the football.
And again, looking over there for Jonas Raymond, the pass falls incomplete on 2nd and 4. Bishop will be forced to punt as the Gators continue to use that lightning offense.
Yeah, Jim Murphy, you know, doesn't seem to really be on his game right now. Just not getting his feet planted, the ball, not very good release going into the dirt in front of Jonas Raymond. He has to be a bit frustrated at this point.
And the busiest man on the Bishop sideline has been kicker Craig Hiscox, who is back once again to punt. Not much rush. The wind kind of knocked that one down and is taken by Jovanic. And Jovanic is tackled there by John Gooby, number 11. 7:23 to play in the first quarter. The Bishop Gators trail 8-3. 7.5 minutes to play here in the first half. The Queens Golden Gales lead Bishop by a score of 8-3. And Queens will scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 46-yard line. It's been a defensive battle so far, and Eric Edwards, number 92, has led the defensive unit of Bishops. Here comes ELBERG, and Edwards is in again to make the stop. Brad ELBERG and Eric Edwards are getting to be very good friends out there. At least very good acquaintances.
Eric Edwards with the tackle.
Well, Eric Edwards, the best linebacker in the O-QIFC, does a pretty good job of escaping the block of Ken Kirkwood, number 66. And then he fills inside and stops Brad ELBERG from cutting back inside.
Gain of 5, 2nd and 5 now from the 51-yard line. Option. Pendergast takes it himself and doesn't get far as Brian Wardrop is up to make the stop. And he's well short of the first down. That was kind of a funny-looking option, Jamie.
Yeah, it didn't seem to really get going. I actually thought that Brad ELBERG, no one was really on him. I thought he was going to pitch the ball to him. The thing is, a quarterback when you're running option, you want to make sure that you're inside of the contained man so he cannot cover both you and the back. And we'll see right there, number 99, Christian Dagg. He's kind of caught in the middle. I think if you're caught in the middle, you dish the ball out to the back.
Well, there's been a problem for Bishops today hanging on to the football on punts and kickoffs. They've already turned the ball over once on special teams. Nice high kick, get away by Galloway. Here's Tom Europe from the 20. Europe gets away from the initial tackler and is finally brought down by Don Rorwell. But a gain of 17 yards by Tom Europe, who had the key play in the regular season meeting between these two clubs.
And also a year ago, when Queens lost this game to them a year ago in 1991, actually, in the regular season, he blocked a punt, or a field goal, excuse me, and returned it all the way for a touchdown. In the game this year, when it was 14-7 for Queens, and they were down in Bishop's 1-yard line, he picked off a pass and ran it back 111 yards, and that turned the whole football game around.
1st and 10 from the 37. They fake to Surratt. Out to the flat, and nailed there before he caught the ball was Tom Hart. At least I thought he was nailed before he caught the ball, but there's no flag. The play is made by Braden Dent.
Yeah, Braden Dent does a nice job. This is, you know, zone coverage here, and Tom Hart's running right into the zone. Boom, you can see right there. I'll tell you what, that's pretty close to being pass interference.
Brad Dent might have got away with one there. 2nd and 10 from the 38. And the offensive troubles continue for Jim Murphy and the Bishop's Gators. Now just 1 of 10. Now he completes it to Masaki Kono. Kono's across midfield. A first down for the Bishop's Gators inside Queens territory at the 53-yard line. Max Turner made the stop. That ends a string of 8 straight incompletions.
And Masaki Kono just getting in behind the linebacker, and they find that little seam, and Jim Murphy finds him.
And they go once again to this thunder and lightning offense on 1st and 10 inside Queens territory. The give to Claude Surratt, and Surratt finds some room down to the 46-yard line. Check that. That is Jeff Roberts, now into the game for the Bishop's Gators. Jeff Roberts, number 39. Do it again.
37.
And you hear them saying, let's do it again.
See Trevor Loving, the backup quarterback, signaling in to Jim Murphy.
Gain of 7 at 2nd and 3. Oh, they won't do it again. They're throwing. It's knocked down at the line. As getting up to get a hand on it was Mark Johnson, the linebacker, number 32. And Murphy had his man open until Mark Johnson got the hand up.
Well, that's one thing about Queens. We talk about 2 defensive linemen. Really, they have 5 linebackers in there. Mark Johnson lines up as a defensive end, and as a linebacker makes a good play of knocking the ball away.
Now, if you're going to do a fake, this might be the spot. And a man to keep an eye on would be Jim Georgitsos, number 51, the up back, who generally takes the direct snaps. They'll go back to Hiscox, and he will kick it away under pressure. It's not a bad kick away. Jovanic took it and is brought down immediately by Jim Georgitsos. A flag is down. No yards will be the call against Bishops.
Yeah, no yards is going to be called against Danny Bohink.
From here. No yards. Bishops, number 91. First down.
Good call, Jamie. You were right on top of it. And so was Bob Butler's officiating crew. So Queens will now get across the 35, where the Golden Gales will scrimmage 1st and 10 from their own 36. It's an 8-3 lead for the Queens Golden Gales. 4:19 to play in the first half, and the Gales have the ball. We'll come back. Late in the second quarter, the Queens Golden Gales are hanging on to a 5-point lead. Queens put together the most impressive drive of the football game. It was a 78-yard, 8-play scoring drive in the first quarter. But since then, the two teams have managed just a single between them. Pendergast under pressure, throws it up to the flat to Rob Weir, but of greater concern to Pendergast was the fact that Eric Edwards was right in his face.
Yeah, Eric Edwards came on the blitz untouched.
Great linebackers from Bishops University. Eric Edwards following in the footsteps of players like Leroy Blue.
Yeah, see number 92, 75 goes away inside, then 92 comes right up the seam. Brad Elberg's blocking backside. You can see the kind of shot that Pendergast receives.
2nd and 10. Pressure again. This time he hangs it up and nobody's even close. The nearest man to the football was Dan McCullough, the tight end, but he was a good 20 yards away.
Well, Pendergast just throwing that football away, trying to avoid the sack. Bishops really overloaded the left side of that Queens offensive line.
You get the feeling, Jamie, that maybe it's going to take a big play on special teams or a big play on defense to get Bishops going.
Yeah, it seems like that the longer this game goes, it seems the tighter these teams are starting to become right now. It really is turning into really a chess game. No one wants to make a mistake.
Jamie Galloway back to punt. 3 men deep for Bishops. High over end over end punt taken by Tom Europe at the 43. Europe straight up the field, bumped into his own man. Quickly grabbed the football and he's brought down at the 50-yard line. Eric Edwards, perhaps the most dominant player in the game today, especially on, if you look at defensive play, which has dominated so far. Now the question for Bishops is, can the offense get some dominant play from this man, Jim Murphy, the quarterback?
Well, they showed some spark in that last series, hitting Misaki Kono over the middle. Not great numbers, 2 of 12, 27 yards, but all it's going to take is one play.
1st and 10 from the 51. The toss goes to Claude Serrano, had trouble handling it at first. He put his head down.
Number 39, Jeff Roberts, straight ahead for about 2.
And the tackle's made by Peter Payne.
Number 28, Mark Morrison with the tackle.
Well, Bishop's not known for running. You see they pull Joey Sabo, tries to kick outside, and then Jeff Roberts comes inside.
For the Gators.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's tough running inside.
Claude Serrano, number 38, started the game at tailback for Bishops. He is not in there now, and we'll check on his condition for you as Jeff Roberts takes his place. Gain of a couple, and is now 2nd and 8 from the Bishop side of midfield at the 53. Murphy steps up from the pocket. Now over the middle, complete to Tom Hart. And Hart has a first down as he's tackled by Chris McCormick. Hart's been the big receiver when they've managed to complete the passes.
Nice job by Jim Murphy. They got a blitz. You'll see Boone come into the right, and then he steps up into the pocket, throws a strike to Tom Harder, does a nice job of coming back with a football, trying to avoid there. Pretty good crack by Chris McCormick. Coughs the ball up, but the official rules of the ball or the ground caused the fumble.
2 injured players now for Bishops. The man who caught the pass, Tom Hart, is shaken up, as is Mike McCarthy, the running back. Hart took a pretty good shot there.
Tom Hart, over the past 4 years, has been one of the steadiest receivers in the country at Fredericton High School. And 21 receptions this year. Seems to be all right.
Tommy Hart is okay.
So Val Amigo checks into the football game, number 82.
First and 10 for the Gators.
Actually, he's wearing number 89. Switch numbers for the game. Movement early, and this is Amigo with the carry.
Number 89, Sal Amigo.
But there was early movement on both sides, and I think this might be procedure against Bishops.
Val Amigo has to be one of the biggest running backs in college football. 6'5", 240 pounds.
And we'll get the call from Bob Butler.
Offside, Queens. First down repeated.
So it'll be 1st and 5 for the Bishops Gators after Queens is called for offside. And now the ball is at the Queens 32-yard line with 2:18 to play in the first half. What a huge backfield they have there now for the Bishops Gators. Claude Surratt is checked back into the game, number 38. Option. Here's Surratt with some room. Surratt up the sidelines, finally forced out of bounds. And is up there to help on the stop was Mark Morrison, number 28, but not before Claude Surratt checked back into the football game and got a first down.
Now, did you see the block that Kent Rao? He came in a fullback. The lead blocker, number 78 at the bottom of your screen, he just made a great block, actually, on number 32, Mark Johnson. And so Johnson really couldn't get around and take care of his responsibility, which is primary contain. Good blocking downfield by Jonas Raymond as well.
The gain was 12. It is now 1st and 10 from the Queens 20. 2:12 to play in the first half. Murphy. Kind of a hitch screen complete out there to David Butler. And Butler is close to another first down. Tackled by Joel Dagnoni. That was a great play, Jimmy. Well executed.
Yeah, very nice. A nice quick hitch outside, and then Butler cuts it back inside and then takes it out. Jim Murphy, 3-step drop. Now he comes inside, and then he goes out again. And just a shoestring tackle by Braden Dent.
Gain was 8. 2nd and 2 now from the 12. And busting it up inside is Jeff Roberts. Roberts has the first down, and Bishops is down to about the 2.
Boy, this hole really opens up for Bishops. Val Amigo, the lead blocker, number 89, kicks out. And then you see Roberts takes it up inside.
Again, working without a huddle. 1st and goal from the 2. Murphy with the toss to Roberts. Outside, and a great defensive play is made there. Is up to make the stop was Mike Boone, the linebacker. It looked like Jeff Roberts was headed for the end zone.
Well, Mark Johnson, who's got contained, the outside linebacker, did a pretty good job of turning that play back inside so that Mike Boone, the linebacker, can scrape across and make that tackle. And Mike Boone's calling a timeout.
And checking into the football game for Bishops, a couple of big fellas, including Eric Edwards, the linebacker, who comes into play offense when they get down to the goal line.
Well, I'm sure that's what Mike Boone saw, and this is a pretty good job by Mike to call the timeout, go over to the sidelines, talk to Doug Hargraves, and also talk to the defensive coordinator, Bob Mullins.
They've got lots of their defense in there, does Bishops. They've got defensive lineman Kent Rao in there. They've got linebacker Eric Edwards in there as well.
Option. That's exactly right. We're looking for option. So, fuck, we only have 4 guys.
Dan's got to take the pitch.
Hey, take the pitch, right? That's all right.
Huh?
Linebackers pretty straight.
Okay, well, he's got to go to the pitch. We got to scrape, cover and score, guys. Let's go. 80, cover 0. 82, cover 0.
Okay, now they think that Bishop's going to come out and try and run option. You hear Doug Hargraves saying that the defensive end has to take the pitch man. Their secondary man, Joel Dagnone, is going to have to fill, as well the linebacker, Mike Boone's going to have to scrape across to take the quarterback if he decides to keep it.
Roberts lost a couple on that last carry. 2nd and goal from the 4. Here comes the option. No, he's going back the other way, and Jim Murphy is dropped. An outstanding defensive play by Mark Johnson. Murphy tried to reverse his field, and right away Johnson was in his face.
And you know, it worked for Queens. Everything they did, they had everybody taken care of, and then Murphy realizes, nothing doing going to the front side. He decides to turn around, and then Mark Johnson, the Czech linebacker, backside, makes a great tackle.
And now Greg Hiscox will attempt a field goal from 14 yards out. And it's a fake. Alain Beaudoin, I believe that is running the offense. And now there's an offside call. There's a flag down, and we'll see what the call is. And we're told that that's an intentional play by Bishops, trying to draw the other team offside as they move up into their offense. Beaudoin simply calls plays, and the ball is not snapped.
Balls, okay, that's what he's handling. Relax.
Okay, everybody back here.
Okay, now can we get back on the...
He's talking about how the quarterback, number 84 in that case, Alain Beaudoin, went up underneath the center, then took his hands out and went back underneath again. That's a legal procedure.
And that's the call from Bob Butler.
The call against the Gators, backing them up some more.
Procedure is the call against Bishops.
And Peter Payne was the linebacker who recognized that. Now watch, you see how he's got his hands underneath, pulls them back out again. You cannot do that. That is a legal procedure. And then Peter Payne comes up there and touches Chris Doucette, saying you can't do that.
So now the field goal attempt will come from 18 yards out. It is up and good. Some intrigue at the goal line. It results in a Greg Hiscox field goal. And now it is a 2-point lead for Queens. Well, I had a little bit of everything down there, Jamie.
Yeah, everything, gosh. We had option, we had fakes, we had everything, gosh. I guess it's playoff time. The Dunsmore Cup, you're going to pull out all your stops and try and go for everything.
I can't think of a more appropriately named football player than Peter Payne.
There was a guy a couple years ago played for Mount A. I think his name was Scott Massacre. That's another great one. He's a defensive player. So some aptly named football players with C.I.A.U.
1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. 1:09 to play in the first half. Queens leads by 2. Here's Brad ELBERG on the carry. And ELBERG has his legs cut out from underneath him by Christian Day.
By number 44, Brian Wardrop, and 99, Christian
Brian
Day.
Wardrop also helped make the stop.
Gain of 5.
He's been the workhorse in the Queens running game, 11 carries so far today. I'm a little bit surprised that Queens is not running their 2-minute offense. Lightning offense right here. I guess they are going to be happy to go into their dressing room with a 2-point lead.
Gain of 6 at 2nd and 4. Here's ELBERG again, and ELBERG is stacked up. Joel Kruzich finished him off. 44 seconds to play in the first half.
They're going to be coming, okay? I think they'll be coming with some people like this one.
Doug Hargraves expects Bishops to go for the punt block, and that would seem to be a reasonable idea at this point.
Yeah, they will be coming. You see as Brad ELBERG tries to take that off tackle and cuts it back inside.
Where are we, Calgary? And speaking of Calgary, the Dinosaurs will play UBC later on today for the Hardy Cup, the Canada West Football Championship. It's conference final weekend. All 4 games being played today as the road to the Vanier Cup narrows considerably today. We'll be down to 4 teams by tonight.
And the weather here, even though it's cold, they say in Vancouver, it's been 28 hours of torrential rain. So less than ideal conditions to play out in Vancouver, but I understand Vince Danielson will start that football game. He was injured last week. They said he was 50-50 whether he would play this week, but he is going to get the nod to start today.
And we'll have scores and highlights of the games for you coming up at halftime. Jamie Galloway is back to punt with 44 seconds to play in the first half. 10 men on the line now for the Bishops Gators. Here they come. And they don't get close. Galloway's low driving punt is taken by Matt Legg at the 38. And leg gets up to the 45. Now 34 seconds to play in the first half as Don Warwick made the stop.
And, you know, 34 seconds is a lot of time for Bishop's offense. I mean, this is a team that can score very quickly.
27 yards on the punt. Still got 34 seconds to go.
After a string of 8 straight incompletions in the first half, Jim Murphy's getting a little better, now 4 of 14, but still not anything close to what he'd like to see.
They only need 30 yards to get in field goal range, so more than enough time.
First and 10 from the 45. Out of the shotgun, here's Murphy looking deep, and it's picked off. Intercepted by Joel Dagnone, and Dagnone's got some room to run inside Bishop's territory before he is finally forced out of bounds by David Butler. Well, you talk about time, 24 seconds left. Queens has the ball down at the 48-yard line, and the Golden Gales might be able to strike here.
Well, the running receiver straight down the field, and he was trying to hit Jonas Raymond in that level 2 area. You see number 88, but overthrown Joel Dagnone, who plays that center field spot. Had 7 interceptions on the season, comes down with another key one.
First and 10 from the Bishops 48, 24 seconds to play. Pendergast to throw. Jovanic has it, and he's dragged down there by Martin Pepe after a gain of about 6.
I'll tell you what, that is a dangerous pass at this time in the football game, that long out sideline. You know, you make about 6 yards in that. Awful dangerous. If Pepin steps in front, it's a TD.
Now 12 seconds to play in the first half. Pendergast, his receiver fell, and it goes incomplete. He was looking for Ed Kidd, but Kidd slipped in that sloppy area of the field. So now 4 seconds to play. From the 42-yard line, that would be a very long field goal for Jamie Galloway. It would be an attempt of about 49 yards.
Well, I saw him attempt one earlier in the pregame warm-up from 52 yards. Now, that's with nobody pressuring you and got all the time in the world to sit back there. They've decided they are not going to attempt that right now. They're probably going to just try and... Oh, and I hold it. I see Jamie Galloway coming onto the field.
And they've called timeout, so Galloway will give it a try. I love kicks in the warm-up. Talk about a useless stat.
Yeah, right.
Every field goal kicker in organized football is hit from 55 yards in the warm-up.
Cover it!
And that's a great point that is yelled in from the Queens sideline to cover it should it be missed.
I think that was an old line when Tony Fritz was kicking with the Houston Oilers, and they brought him over from Austria. He was kicking them from 50 yards out, and in his first game he had to kick a 3.5-yard convert. He said, nobody told me there were 11 guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage trying to break my neck.
Well, Jamie Galloway, I'm sure, is well aware of it. This field goal attempt will come from the 49-yard line. Don Simpson is back to field it should he miss. And he'd have a lot of running room. High snap. And Galloway's kick isn't close. It bounces at the 5, and here comes Don Simpson. Simpson looking for some blocks. He's got a couple up the sidelines, and he won't get far. Peter Payne finally drives him out of bounds up around the 25-yard line. It's the end of the first half, and it's close. Queens leads Bishop 8-6. Coming up, a TSN update, Jim's excellent adventure, and more. You're watching the C.I.A.U. on TSN. The Queens Golden Gales marching band. All the hits, all the time here on TSN. We got no shot at getting through this, Jamie. Highlights of the first half. Let's talk first of all about defense and the outstanding play of Eric Edwards.
Well, that's what it was, Gordon. It was all defense in the first half. Look at the score, 8-6. Eric Edwards, one of the best linebackers in the country. He picks off Tim Pendergast in the first play, and that turned it into actually a field goal for Bishops, and they got on the board first because of Eric Edwards' interception.
Now, when you talk about outstanding defensive plays as well, Mark Johnson, number 32, turned in a great one here.
Well, when you're down the goal line, Bishops decide they're going to try and run option. Jim Murphy doesn't see what he likes when they go to option, and then Mark Johnson, the backside linebacker, comes in and stuffs him for a loss, and that was a big defensive play for Queens.
What do you expect here in the second half?
I think you're going to have to see both teams open it up a little bit more right now. They're starting to get conservative in the second quarter. They got to start throwing the ball a little bit more effectively. And I think we're going to see a little bit more offense in the second half.
All right, it's time to go to commercial. And as we do, and a 1, and a 2, and a 1, 2, 3. Well, 131 net yards for Bishops, 126 for Queens. Indicative of the close score that we have, 8-6 Golden Gales after 30 minutes.
Yeah, also indicative of a tight defensive game right now. You know, we're looking at the number 1 and number 2 defenses in the conference. A little bit surprising, though, that Queens has come out and played great defense in the secondary so far. You know, they're number 6 in the O-QIFC, but they're playing the top of their game this afternoon. Ian Breck, the head coach of the Bishops Gators, getting his charges back out onto the field. You can see he's wearing those receiver gloves, so it tells you what kind of a program they have here. He likes to throw the football.
It's a chilly day here, -5 at kickoff. It feels a little colder than that now. The wind's died down and it stopped snowing. That's the 2 bits of good news. The bad news is it gets kind of dark early this time of year and there's no lights at this field.
Yeah.
So if overtime is required, we could have a problem. On the campus of Bishops University in Lennoxville, Quebec, in the Eastern Townships. And what a gorgeous area this is, and what enthusiastic fans these are. And there's been some theft down at the one end of the end zone. That's what the fans are cheering about. Some enthusiastic Bishops fans have stolen the colors of Queens. Ah, jocularity. Bishops will kick it off to begin this second half. Queens will get it back, leading by a couple. Queens put together the only scoring drive of the game in the first quarter. It was a very impressive drive, but we haven't seen much since.
No, we haven't. You know, that was the longest drive so far today, 8 plays in that scoring drive, 2 passing. The rest of them were on the ground. Doug Hargrave's been in many games of this importance in the past. Won a Vanier Cup with Queens in 1978. And won this game in a tight one last year, 34-31.
Greg Hiscox to kick it off. A low driving kick that is taken by Brad ELBERG at the 15. ELBERG breaks away. He's got room across midfield. ELBERG. Only one man to beat. Europe dives. Touchdown. Brad ELBERG on the opening kickoff of the second half.
Flag? Is there a flag? Is there a flag? Calling on flag. Please throw them down.
Brad ELBERG takes the opening kickoff. 95 yards for a Queens touchdown. Absolutely sensational.
Brad ELBERG has great speed. They say they clock him at 4.4, and you can see the kind of speed he has here when he pulls away, especially right here in the top of your screen. Number 1, Tom Europe, who they say is another player who's got 4.4 speed. Looks like Europe starting to catch him. The 2 number 1s chasing each other down the field, and he manages to get into the end zone.
First time in the football game that Bishops had kicked off, and Queens took it back for a touchdown. With the convert to come, it's 14-6 in favor of Queens. Bishops may have stolen the colors, but right now the Golden Gales have stolen the show.
No, I'm fine. We got a while. Doesn't matter.
And we have a delay as we wait for the convert. Brad ELBERG will need a couple of moments to get his win as Tom Europe, who was the last man with a chance to catch ELBERG, leaves the field.
And you know, Gore, this is the exact opposite of what happened in the very first game. We talked about the interception that Tom Europe ran back for a touchdown. The player that Pendergast was throwing the ball to is ELBERG, and ELBERG could not catch him. Here we had the reverse situation happen where Tom Europe could not catch Brad ELBERG.
Galloway with the convert, and it is good.
Kick is good. Gales.
We've played all of 14 seconds in the second half. And here's what might very well be the play of the game.
And they say there's no substitute for speed. ELBERG starts off to the right, and then he cuts back, finds that little seam, and now it's just a foot race right here. Actually, a good block on the kicker, Greg Hiscox. And now Tom Europe, it looks like he's got a little bit of an angle.
29 minutes and 46
And makes that diving stab for his foot, but it was just a little bit too little. Looks like Brad ELBERG has some rib problems. And I'm sure after that long run, he was breathing pretty hard, and they probably aggravated them a little bit.
Back deep for the Gators. Number 20, Tom Hart. Number 2, Misaki Kono. And number 17, Joel Cruzen.
Brad ELBERG has given his team a 9-point lead. It was the opening play of the second half. A kickoff return of 95 yards for a touchdown. We'll see what Bishops can do. Galloway's kick taken by Tom Hart at the 20. Hart looks for room, dances out close to the sidelines, but he's brought down there by Max Turner. So a more conventional kickoff return, this time by Tom Hart, and Bishops will take over 1st and 10 from about the 30-yard line.
Well, that Brad ELBERG kickoff puts a little bit more pressure on Jim Murphy. Quarterback, not great numbers in the first half, only 4 completions of 15 attempts. In fairness to Jimmy, had a few dropped.
Mike McCarthy, the slot back, Jamie, has a shoulder injury. And Claude Surratt is now playing wide receiver. Here's the pass intended for Tom Hart. And that dropped into a pack of Queens defenders.
28, Mark Morrison with the coverage. Second down.
Jim Murphy looking downfield, good protection. Trying to go for Tom Hart. You can see that number 5 coming off of that, Braden Dent. Breaks up the play.
Now 2nd and 10 from the 31. This crowd still stunned by that 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to open the second half. Murphy steps up, has time, looks over the middle, and incomplete. David Butler couldn't make the catch. And again, a pass by Jim Murphy that probably should have been caught.
And you know, you have to give good credit to Queens defensive secondary. You know, they're doing a really good job here playing man coverage. James Patterson coming across the field. You know, that's tight coverage. You can't get any better than that.
Would have been a tough catch.
Yeah, Butler would have been a tough catch. Kind of stretching out, trying to haul that one in.
Greg Hiscox will punt for the 8th time today. Plenty of time and a nice high spiraling punt into this wind, taken by Mark Morrison at the 45. And this time the Bishops special teams come up quickly to make the tackle. Joel Cruzen makes the stop along with Danny Bohink, but it'll be great field position again for Queens. 1st and 10 from their own 53-yard line. A kickoff return for a touchdown is giving the Golden Gales a 9-point lead over Bishops. Well, the special teams have given Tim Pendergast and the Golden Gales a little cushion.
Yeah, not as much pressure on Tim Pendergast now. We see his first half stats. 6 of 14, 49 yards, 2 interceptions. They don't look very good, but he had 2 big completions on their drive in the second quarter that resulted in a touchdown.
2 of his first 4 passes were picked off, but he's settled down since then. His team has the football 1st and 10 from its own 53-yard line. And they give to the lead back, Paul Kozak. And the tackle is made by Paul Connery.
Now when you're
the stop is Christian Day.
Sorry, Igor, when you're running option, there's supposed to be a read initially to the fullback. And if somebody's taking him, then in fact you take the ball back out and then you take your next read, who's the primary contained man. But that time, Tim Pendergast just handed the ball off, and where he would have been more or better advised to run the option.
No gain, 2nd and 10. Pendergast under pressure throws to the flat and completes it out there to Rob Weir. But Weir is a couple of yards short of the first down. As up to make the stop was Tom Europe.
Now that shows a little bit of inexperience on Rob Weir's part. You know, they're trying to roll out here, and when you're rolling out, the receiver's got to take the route downfield a little bit deeper because the quarterback has more time because he's getting outside. You can see Rob Weir makes his cut, makes the catch, but they're going to come up 1.5 yards short. Rob Weir out of Oakville Trafalgar came to this program as a quarterback, as did Ed Kidd earlier, but they made him into a wide receiver.
And they'll have a look at this, but it's at least 1 yard short. This field's actually held up pretty well today, Jay. We were talking about how sloppy it might get, but it hasn't been bad.
Oh, I think it's because of the cold weather. I think the field is partly frozen right now.
Third down.
Third and 1 yard. And in comes the short yardage team. Maybe even the punting unit. Yeah, they're going to punt. Jamie Galloway steps on the field, and Queens will take no chances.
Now, this is a time when you might want to run a fake.
Back deep for the Gators, Kono, Lang,
Well, if you're going to go for it, usually you go for it with your offense in there, but Jamie Galloway, the punter, is back there now for Queens. And the man to watch is Don Rorwick, number 35. If it's a direct snap. Kind of faked it. Galloway gets a nice high punt. Taken by Masaki Kono with his 3. Kono reverses the speed. And finally he is cut down as Brad Dent got up to make the stop. Dent is hurt. Kono with a quick burst of speed got all the way up to the 20-yard line. And despite the fact that their team is down, the Bishop fans maintain the enthusiasm as Brad Dent gets a look from the athletic therapist from Queens, but he went down very quickly as he made the tackle on Masaki Kono. And it is cold, and every hit must feel that much tougher.
Well, Brad Dent makes the hit right coming in there. Boom.
I think he might
Catches
have
it right in
taken
the thigh. Yeah, I think he might have taken a knee to the side of the head. But you know, Masaki Kono, that's exactly how you're supposed to return punts. Take it straight up the field. You know, all that, the coverage team is coming down. A lot of them haven't broken down yet. If you can bust it through that first wave, you've got a pretty good chance of making some good yardage. It's coming in there to the right of your screen. It looks like his head was behind him when he hit him, but
Well, if they're going to score a touchdown, it'll be while I'm getting a drink.
I think he actually hit him right on the hip with his head. Let's hope it's not serious. Braden Dent, a defensive back for the Queens Golden Gales.
As Brad Dent is attended to by the staff from Queens. We'll take a break and return to Lennoxville, where the Golden Gales lead the Gators 15-6. Well, there's relief on the Queens sidelines as Brad Dent leaves under his own power. He seems to be all right, and the Bishop's Gators will take over 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. They trail this game by 9 with 11:52 to play in the third quarter. Jim Murphy to throw on 1st down. Under pressure now, gets it out there looking for Tom Hart. But the play is broken up by Aaron Campbell, who timed his play perfectly to get there just as the ball arrived.
Yeah, Aaron Campbell has come in for the injured Brad Dent. It certainly doesn't waste any time in getting involved in the football game. Again, you can see problems with the footing again as Tom Hart slips a little bit. Really didn't have an effect. Pretty good pop.
And on a cold day like this, it hurt up here. 2nd and 10 from the 20. From the shotgun, here's Murphy. Time, and now Murphy pulls it down. He'll run. Murphy's got lots of room. A 1st down and more. All the way up to about the 40-yard line. Stopped at the 39 as the stop is made by Max Turner.
Now, Gore, when you run a 6 defensive back package and everybody's playing man coverage, watch how all the linebackers, they start covering the backs, they start running out of their guys are turning. They don't have their heads looking back at the quarterback. Murphy makes a great decision. He just sees that, hey, there's nobody there. I'm going to just try and get as much yardage as I possibly can.
gain was 17. 1st and 10 from the 38 for Bishops. Back to the ground they go. Claude Saran. Saran is stacked up quickly as the tackle is made by Mark Johnson, among others.
Claude Saran
left the game for a while in the first half, but has returned. Even plays some wide receiver in this offense.
Yeah, that was a little bit unusual, Claude Saran. 8 carries, 52 yards. When you consider he only had 181 yards rushing in 7 games. Not a bad afternoon.
On 2nd and 7 over the middle for Misaki Kono, but he can't make the tackle. He took a shot from Aaron Campbell. And Brad Dent says he's all right, but he looks a little worse for wear. Shaking off the cobweb.
Going over the middle to Misaki Kono. Just a little bit too high, and then Aaron Campbell comes in and lays a great lick on him.
It's been a problem today for Bishops. He's hauling in those passes for Murphy. 9th punt of the game for Greg Hiscox. End over end punt, and it is taken finally there by Steve Jovanic, and Jovanic got just a couple. He was trying to induce Bishops into an O-yards call. Jim Georgitsis made the stop. Well, I mentioned earlier that this field is a little sloppy. If Sherbrooke gets the Pan Am Games in 1999, we are told that this field will have artificial turf. Sherbrooke bidding to host the Pan Am Games, and other cities from Canada bidding include Winnipeg. Can't find many areas nicer than this to hold them, though. 1st and 10 for Queens from the 40. ELBERG. Looked like he was about to break off tackle, but Brian Wardrop made a great stop.
I'll tell you, that's a great play by the linebacker, Brian Wardrop. You know, we've talked a lot about Eric Edwards, but watch Brad ELBERG. Starts out to the right, you know, and then he sees that, hey, Wardrop's got the angle on. Now he cuts it back, but Wardrop makes a great recovery and sliding down and making that tackle. I mean, that is great defensive play.
The gain was 3, and it's 2nd and 7. 9:12 to play here in the 3rd quarter. And a quick drop play goes to Paul Kozan, and Kozan has a 1st down after a gain of about 12. Tackled by Christian Day.
It's a nice play. They take Brad ELBERG, the tailback, and they set him over the tight end. Just at the top of your screen, looks like he's going to be sprint out action. Then they run the inside trap draw. And Paul Kozan played in Regina. Eric Edwards is having a fine game, but that time Paul Kozan gets the better of him. You don't see Eric Edwards miss too many tackles.
And Queens now has it 1st and 10 at the Bishops 54 over the middle, and they were looking there for the tight end, Dan McCullough, but McCullough couldn't haul it in as John Gooby clotheslined him at the last second. There is a flag down on the play.
9 Bishops on the quarterback.
Christian Day.
Ooh, that's a huge play.
Caught for roughing Tim Pendergast.
Automatic 1st down for Queens. The ball now at the Bishops' 39-yard line. So instead of forcing Queens to punt, Bishops takes a roughing the quarterbacking call.
And you know something else here, Gord, the wind is shifted. It is now blowing in the face of Queens, blowing left to right.
Now 1st and 10 from the 39, thanks to the roughing the passer penalty. And inside, they give the ball off to Ed Kidd. But Kidd lost a couple. Danny Bohink in to make the stop.
Now they're trying to run counter with the slot back, Ed Kidd. Full flow to the right and then counter back inside. Good job by the Bishops defense to stuff that. You can see the snow now starting to fall a little bit heavier.
Yes, I'm becoming aware of that, old friend. Loss of a couple. And they give inside to Kozan. He's going nowhere. He got back to the original line of scrimmage. Gain of a couple as Danny Bohink again was in to make the stop. Well, with the wind changing direction, this kind of changes the philosophy for Queens. They might have attempted the field goal earlier, but they'd have to try it from about 46 now, and this would be a very long field goal. Ed Kidd is down now, and let's have a look at what happened to him. Down at the end of the play here, and Matt Legg jumped up and Took a little shot at him, and actually, as he was giving it back, it looked like Kidd might have caught his fingers in the mask. Everything must hurt on a day like today.
Looks like he might have jammed his fingers on his left hand.
Number 20, Ed Kidd, the injured goal kill.
Got him up from the mask, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he thinks the field seems to be all right. Galloway will punt from the 54. Three men back deep to receive for Bishop. Galloway low end over end punts. It bounces at the 20. Masaki Kono picks it up there and doesn't get far.
29 yards, taken by Kono, return of 7.
Rupthurger makes the stop. Bishop will have the ball back, trailing by 9 when we return to Lennoxville and the Ontario-Quebec final. We're back in Lennoxville. 7.5 minutes to play in the third quarter. 15-6 is the lead for Queens over Bishops. Stay tuned at the conclusion of today's game for the TSN Turning Point, brought to you by Sony. Some people get all the breaks. Who's Charlie?
It's quite the logo on that cast.
That's backup quarterback Charlie Orkerson, who is the object of the affections there. We are told on the Queen's sideline, or the Bishop sideline. Bishops now has it 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. Under 7.5 to play here in the third quarter. Murphy over the middle looking for Jonas Raymond, and again, the pass falls incomplete.
And now they also have Jeff Roberts lined up at wide receiver. We saw Claude Siren earlier. Jeff Roberts, who's been playing a little bit of tailback today as well, now playing wide receiver.
Last 6 passes by Murphy have fallen incomplete. The big play of this football game was the opening kickoff of the second half, taken back for a 95-yard touchdown by Brad ELBERG of Queens. Murphy back across the field, complete over there with Jonas Raymond. But he is stacked up quickly by a gang of Queens tacklers, and he is not close to the first down. Max Turner led the Queens wave of gales.
Well, Bishops want to give Jim Murphy a chance to throw to somebody quick if he can, but you know, the linebackers are spying Jonas Raymond. Then they let him go, and he's actually looking at throwing to the right. Then he comes back and throws to the left. But it's only a 5-yard reception, and then there's not much room for Jonas Raymond to turn it upfield as Joel Dagnoni comes in and makes the tackle.
And that will bring on Greg Hiscox for a 10th time today. Nice high punt. Great punt into the wind. Jovic lost it. Falls on it before it was recovered by Chris Doucette, who was bearing down on it. What a great punt into that breeze. And yes, the weather is appropriate.
Yeah, I thought he'd be flying south at this time of year. If you take a look at the goose, oh, actually, it's a fan from Queens, from Bishops. I wouldn't put that on Queens.
You know what? That guy told me last night he's wearing a goose on his head, and I didn't believe him.
You better watch out. Somebody's liable to take a shot at him.
Me. 1st and 10 from the 49. The give goes to the lead back, Paul Beresford. And Beresford has about 4. Brian Wardrop in to make the stop.
Paul Beresford, another one of these Queens football players that came to this university as a quarterback out of high school. And he said he's played almost every position on this team except offensive line. Great crowd here this afternoon at Bishops.
Game was 3 at 2nd and 7. Here's ELBERG, and what a great stop. Paul Connery jumps up to make the stop.
But the guy who made that play was Christian Dagg, number 99. Boy, he shot across. They're trying to run toss, where all the offensive line's reaching. They lead with the lead back to kick out, but Christian Dagg was right there, forced ELBERG inside. And watch here, you can see Dagg, number 99. He doesn't make the tackle, but he makes the play because he forces ELBERG back inside. Nice job, and then he lets Brian Wardrop make the tackle.
Now on 3rd and a bunch, Jamie Galloway will kick it away from about his 40. Having a headbutt contest on the Bishop sideline. There's another great punt. Matt Lang from the 15. Looking for room to run. He gets up across the 30 to the 34.
32 yards taken by Lennox.
All right, Rod Weir up to make the stop. They've settled into a defensive battle. There have been 2 touchdowns scored in the game, one by the Queens offense, one by Queens special teams. And now Bishops will scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 35. And, you know, Murphy hasn't thrown the ball badly, but a lot of the times it's been just a couple inches off and his receivers haven't been able to squeeze.
That's really been the difference. You know, he's had people open. Coming across the middle, Misaki Kono a few times, Justin Raymond. He's just got to bring the ball down a little bit.
Under 5 minutes to play in the 3rd quarter. And the give goes to Jeff Roberts, who hits the line running, puts his head down, and he's got about 4 yards to show for it. Mike Boone made the stop.
For the 50-50 draw. Tickets done for the draw after this play.
Take a look at Queens. They don't pass the ball that much, but almost not bad today, you know. But look at Bishops. That's unusual. Normally, they would only be rushing the ball maybe 4 or 5 times in a football game, throwing it a lot more.
That pass almost intercepted by Mark Johnson. The 2nd time in the football game he's knocked a pass down at the line. In addition, he had that key defensive play on 2nd and goal where he dropped Jim Murphy for a loss.
The bottom of your screen, number 32. Nobody blocks him. Now, you can't run that play like that. You see Jeff Roberts retreating? No. He's got to step up and he's got to cut Mark Johnson so that Jim Murphy has a clear view to the receiver.
Number 11 for Greg Hiscox. He'll need new shoes after this game. Or at least laces on the one shoe. Another good high punt into this win. Mark Morrison from the 33. Didn't get far as Danny Bohink was right on top of him to make the stop. But how much longer can this Bishops defense hold? They've spent a lot of time on the football field, Jamie.
Yeah, they have spent a lot of time in the field, Gord. You know, this is a pretty good unit. We've talked about them all year. They've been overshadowed by the play of their offense in the past. Most people always think of Bishop's offense because they throw the ball so well and the kind of people they have playing for them, especially Jim Murphy.
Yes, Mark Johnson had a great day today for Queens. He and Eric Edwards have been the 2 stars. Brad ELBERG with the carry. And ELBERG fights his way up before he's brought down by Tom Urich. Got about 5. And if you're just joining us, Brad ELBERG turned in the play of the game, and it might be the play of the season for Queens, leading by 2 to open the 2nd half. ELBERG took the opening kickoff of the half and took it 95 yards for the touchdown. ELBERG, the outstanding running back from Queens, could not be caught by defensive back Tom Urich. That results in the 15-6 lead that Queens enjoys now. Gain of 5, it's 2nd and 5 from the 45. Pendergast completes it to ELBERG, but ELBERG is stopped for no gain by Joel Kruzic.
Nice job by Joel Kruzic. He's man-to-man on the first back coming out of the backfield, and that's Brad ELBERG. He runs what they call a shallow. Now ELBERG has to work back. Kruzic almost slips and makes the great tackle.
A shallow?
Yeah, that's what they call it. You go down 5 yards, you turn it out.
We always called that an out.
I know, well, it's just terminology.
See, I'm learning so much about football this year. The A gap, the A seam.
B seams, B gaps, I know. Stick with me a little longer.
Punt has been an operative word here in the 2nd half. And this one almost hit our scaffolding here. Not too far, and it goes out of bounds. They'll rule it at the 44-yard line, where Bishop will start 1st and 10.
Well, right now in the 3rd quarter, Bishops are starting to win this punting game here. They're starting to get better field position each time the ball is exchanged. It's Jamie Galloway not happy with that punt.
Joel Kruzic lost for words. 1st and 10 from the 44 for Bishops. Murphy rolls out. Now throws back against his body. Gets it over there to Alan Beaudoin. And they rule it out of bounds. The call is out of bounds. So that'll be 2nd and 10.
Good job by the Bishop's offensive line to allow Murphy to get outside. You see he gets outside to contain Alun. Now he turns his shoulders and throws it for Alain Beaudoin. It's pretty close. The official right there must have thought he had his foot just on the line.
We talked about Alain Beaudoin in our opening and how key he would be for this Bishop's offense. He does not have a catch yet today. 2nd and 10 from the shotgun. Here's Murphy with time to the flat, and the flag comes down as the pass was intended for Tom Hart, but moving up a little too quickly was Chris McCormick. And that will be a 1st down for Bishops.
Murphy looking for Hart. Number 14, Chris McCormick.
The call from Bob Butler.
And then so.
Legal interference, 14 Queens, 1st down.
As opposed to the legal interference. Bishops is now in Queens territory. 1st and 10 from the 53. Murphy, quick drop. Looking in the flat to Beaudoin, picked off. Intercepted by James Patterson. And Patterson is all the way down to the Bishops 40-yard line, right in front of Coach Ian Breck. Beaudoin had it for a moment, but couldn't hang on.
Now this is the case for the receiver. You have to look the ball in the whole way. Watch here. He turns his head because he knows that Morrison's coming to hit him. Or excuse me, that's Max Turner, and then the ball is into James Patterson's hands.
A huge defensive play for Queens. 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line. Take to ELBERG. Pendergast to throw, and it's a one-hopper. He was looking over there for Ed Kidd. Matt Legg provided the coverage. We're at Bishops University in Lennoxville, Quebec. The Ontario-Quebec final for the Dunsmore Cup. The winner goes to the Churchill Bowl next week at CI.A.U.
Take a look at the total yards, 37-28. Bishops has the edge, but Queens have come up with a big play.
But just 65 total yards in offense with 45 seconds to play in the 3rd quarter. ELBERG, nowhere. Stacked up by Eric Edwards. Paul Connery and Kent Rao also up to help with the stop. Well, the Bishops defense, give them credit, has stood tall, but James Patterson with a big defensive play just when it appeared that Bishops had some momentum.
Yeah, had some momentum and had good field position. You know, they were starting to win that game of exchanging punts, and they're getting better field position. Now they're going to be back in their own end again.
Dare we call it a chess game for field position? Since we're following the chess motif. 18 seconds and counting to play in the 3rd quarter. The punt by Galloway, high and deep. Misaki Kono mishandled it. Loose ball. He falls on it at the 10. And suddenly Bishops is losing the battle for field position. They've had trouble all day fielding the ball in special teams.
Yeah, and catching the ball downfield. This is so unlike Bishops this year. They've usually been very sure-handed.
Hold him in there, Molly. Hold him in there.
Doug Hargraves talking to his defensive coordinator.
Good way to go, coverage team.
Bob Mullins.
Way to go, folks. Way to go, folks.
Apparently Mully will take the blame if they don't. 1st and 10 from the 10. This should be the final play of the 3rd quarter. Murphy under pressure. Dropped close to a safety, but they'll rule it down at the 1. And coming up on the halfback blitz was Aaron Campbell. And that outstanding defensive play typifies what's happened here in this football game.
From the backside, they bring the halfback, Aaron Campbell. No receiver to that side. He comes on the halfback blitz. And
the final play of the 3rd quarter. It's 15-6 Queens. 1 quarter to play. Maybe more. But it's Queens up by 9 right now. Welcome back to Lennoxville, where it's cool to wear plaid, where it's cool to wear lots of clothes today, because it is chilly. And it is colder on the Bishop sideline. You'd have to expect that last quarterback sack resulted in a loss of 9 yards. It is 2nd and 19 for Bishops from the 1. Murphy gets out of the end zone. That's the first trick. It almost intercepted. Are they calling it a catch? Aaron Campbell. And yes, it's a Queens interception. And a flag is down.
The flag was down because Jim Murphy was over the line of scrimmage when he threw the football. So Queens will decline that and take Aaron Campbell's interception.
Campbell with a diving catch. And this will give Queens a first down at the Bishop's 14-yard line. And this crowd in Lennoxville is
Got a legal
stunned.
forward pass. Number 13 was over the line. Declined. First down.
Jim Murphy looks like he's going to try and run it, but Mike Boone has him snagged. And boy, what a great defensive play by Aaron Campbell to step in front of Jonas Raymond.
It was Campbell who had the quarterback sack that put Bishops back at the 1. Well, this is a chance for Queens now to perhaps deliver the knockout punch. 1st and 10 from the 14. Pendergast goes straight ahead.
So I'm not sure what that is unless he had trouble with the snap from center and decided not to try and make a bad thing worse, just kind of falling forward.
Now you wonder with Queens if they're thinking about the leads that got away last year in the O-Q final against Bishops, a 30-point lead. The Gators came back to tie it, and of course,
the Churchill Bowl.
The huge lead against Laurier, 20-3. Second and 8, ELBERG. Fights his way down to about the 6, but it'll be short of the first down, and it really looked like all the way Queens would be quite content to kick the field goal. And the field goal would be big.
3rd down for Queens.
It would make it a 12-point lead for Queens. This a chip shot for Galloway, so I'll throw the curse on him now. From the 14. And Galloway puts it through, so the interception results in 3. It is now an 18-6 lead for Queens over Bishops with 13:26 to play in the 4th quarter.
13:26 to play.
Jamie Galloway, the leading scorer, career scorer in the O-QIFC and the leading scorer in Queens history. Puts him on top, 18-6.
This has not been a typical day for Ian Breck's Bishops Gators. Mentally, they really haven't been sharp at times, and it's really cost them. The Gators will now scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 35. The light snow is beginning to fall once again. 13:15 to play in the 4th quarter. Claude Soren, not much.
You know, Gord, there's one guy in the defensive line for Queens that we haven't been talking about very much today, but he's been playing pretty well. That's Eric Dell. He's the lineman of the year in the O-QIFC and will be up for the Metris Trophy in Canada. Number 65.
Gain of 4, 2nd and 6. From the shotgun, Murphy. Looking for Tom Hart, but the pass was nowhere close. And a frustrating day continues for Jim Murphy.
You know, you were talking earlier about Queens blowing leads, but I wonder how Bishops feel right now because they've been in so many key games in the past and they were a great football team, but they can never seem to get to that step to get to the Vanier Cup, take that step to get to the Vanier Cup, and that has to be playing in their minds right now as well.
Hiscox. But it's taken by Mark Morris, and loose ball, and Queens has it back. Oh. It's been an adventure on both sides. But Queens will have the ball back with an 18-6 lead and 12-12 to play in the 4th quarter. Elsewhere today in the Atlantic final, St. Mary's leads Mount Allison 15-10 in the third quarter. That score is closer than we might have expected. St. Mary's handled Mount Allison pretty easily in a game we did here on TSN. And here's the surprise, Guelph, which upset Western last week, leads Western 21-3 in the third.
That shows you what kind of a defense Guelph have. I mean, they have a good defense, holding Western only to 3 points.
And here it is, Queens leading Bishops 18-6. And they want to get a clean football out there. Oh, play more.
Sign of a good center, Tom Black. Make sure that the ball is dry and cleaned off, no mud on it.
Well, less mud on it. From the 46-yard line. Under 12 minutes to play in the fourth. ELBERG off tackle, and he's got room to run. It took about 4 Bishop's Gators to bring him down. Joel Kruzich led them with the stop. But not before ELBERG had a gain of 9.
They love to run that off tackle, lead with the fullback, and then ELBERG, you can see how kind of strength that he has in his legs. Keeps his feet moving. I tell you what, it takes 5 Bishop's Gators to bring him down. He shakes a few of the cobwebs out and the mud off of his helmet.
2nd and 1 from the 54. Pendergast gets across the midfield stripe into Bishop's territory for the first down. And the Bishop's defense must now feel the heat. The offense has done very little today, and the Gators defense has stood tall.
Make a fumble, lock the ball.
First and 10 Queens, inside the 55.
Go defense, go defense, go defense, go, go, nothing, shut him down.
First and 10 for the Bishops 54. Here's ELBERG, and he's got about 4 that time. Christian Degg made the stop.
Carrier for about 3 yards.
But the clock continues to run.
Okay, the whistle's blowing, Brad. You can go back to the huddle. Number 99, Christian Degg with
Brad
the stop.
ELBERG, an intense football player. Take a look at his eyes before he gets the ball. He's not squinting. He's just an intense guy.
2nd and 7 for Queens.
And he's over 1,000 yards rushing this year. Of course, playoff games don't count in the final stats. Pendergast looking deep, but his pass is well over the head of Steve Jovic.
Looking for Jovic.
That's one of the few times we've seen either quarterback go deep today.
Third down.
And it brings up a third down situation for Queens.
On the punt for Queens.
Brad ELBERG with 72 yards rushing, but what doesn't appear in those numbers, the 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to open the third quarter. Galloway to punt. High spiraling kick. It's taken by Masaki Kono at the 10. Kono got away from the first wave of tacklers, but is finally brought down by Don Rorwick. So Bishops has the ball, has a long way to go, and the Gators trail by 12 in the Ontario-Quebec final here in Lennoxville. It takes big plays to win big games, and Doug Hargrave's Queens Golden Gales have turned in the big plays so far today. We'll take you back to the first half. And the play by Mark Johnson on 2nd and goal when he sacked Jim Murphy. Then the 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown by Brad ELBERG. That opened the second half. More great defense when Jamie Patterson intercepted this Jim Murphy pass. And then another key interception, this time turned in by Aaron Campbell. As Bishops was stuck deep in its own territory, this resulted in the field goal that gives Queens the 18-6 lead. The Golden Gales enjoy now. So Hargrave's trying to get his team back to the Vanier Cup. The last time Queens won it was back in 1978.
And the last time they were in it was in 1983 versus the Calgary Dinosaurs, a game in which they lost.
Later on today, it is Calgary and UBC for the Hardy Cup in the Canada West. But right now, it is Queens and Bishops. And Bishops scrimmage 1st and 10 from the 28. Murphy's had a tough day throwing the ball, and he won't get it away here. The ball is loose. And I believe Bishops got it back. Yes, the Gators have it.
Fumble, recovered by the Gators.
Well, it has been a rough day all around for Jim Murphy. 5 of 26 passing for 63 yards. He's been intercepted 3 times and sacked 4 times.
Not a good afternoon for Jim Murphy. As we take a look at Eric Dell, the injured Queens Golden Gale.
From Sudbury, Ontario.
Now, I think Jim Murphy here gave up on Masaki Kono a little bit too soon, because Kono was working outside and he had all sorts of time in the pocket. But then he turns back and he actually had Tom Hart working inside. There were no receivers over on the right side of the field.
That was okay. 2nd and 16.
The loss was 6. It is 2nd and 16. 9:15 to play in the 4th quarter. Bishops down by 12. And Murphy gets it out in the flat to McCarthy. McCarthy got a good block, gets up across the 26, but he's nowhere close to the first down. He's close to the original line of scrimmage. Coming up next week on TSN, it is double headers Saturday. The Churchill Bowl from Sky-Dome. Jamie Bowen and I will be there for that as the champions from the Ontario, Quebec, and the Ontario Conference meet. John Wells and Leif Pedersen will have the Atlantic Bowl as the champions of the Atlantic meet the winners from Canada West. It all leads to the Vanier Cup in 2 weeks' time here on TSN. Greg Hiscox again to punt. Mark Morrison from midfield. And not much further. Brian Wardrop makes the stop. But it's good field position for Queens. And there's not much time left for Bishop.
Come on, D, big play.
Well, Gord, you said earlier it's been a game of big plays, and now it's time for Bishop's defense to come up with some big plays here to get their offense on track and get them back into this football game.
Well, Eric Edwards has been the big man on defense today for Bishops. He'll have to stand tall here again. 1st and 10 from the 53-yard line for the Golden Gales. Under 8.5 minutes to play in the 4th quarter. ELBERG stacked up quickly.
ELBERG met by a bunch of commandos.
Joel Kruzich is up to make the stop along with David Henry.
Kruzich, Wardrop sticking their face to his.
The gain was about 3.
Up in the route anyway. We're not getting into his field of vision, so let's get that taken care of, and that's a big part of where we're getting some pressures from the backside. Okay.
Trying to sort their offensive troubles out as the Bishops defense goes to work here against Queens. 2nd and 7. Kozak, nothing. Eric Edwards makes another big stop. Well, the Bishops defense did the job.
And, you know, Eric Edwards, you know, that's just great ability to be able to know what's going on right at the time. They're trying to run trap inside. Watch the right guard pull. Eric Edwards comes underneath that. The tackle is supposed to come down and drive him across the hole, but he recognizes it so quickly and gets into the hole.
Galloway back to punt once again. But in the battle for field position, Bishops is losing badly. 3 men deep, 9 men up for Bishops. Galloway with a wobbly punt, taken by Kruzich at the 20. And he's stopped in his tracks by Jamie Lewin, number 29. So Bishops will begin 1st and 10 from its own 22-yard line. 7:13 to play. In the 4th quarter, it's a 12-point Queens lead.
And we have another scoring from the OUAA Yates Cup final. That is, Guelph have just scored before the end of the half to make the score 28-3 for the Guelph Griffins over the Western Mustangs.
Well, last week we saw them in double overtime, or 2 overtime halves, I guess we'll call it, against the Toronto Varsity Blues. Just 2 first downs for Bishops. The wind is blowing and the snow is getting heavier. The toss play to Jeff Roberts. It's a reverse. And here comes Tom Hart. Hart up to the 33-yard line. He'll be about a yard short of the first down, and Hart is hurt. Well, they talked about backside pressure when we listened in on Ian Breck. That's a good way to alleviate it, the reverse.
Yeah, not bad. Actually, Aaron Campbell, the defensive back, he had check responsibility. He almost makes his play. They run the toss to Roberts. Now he hands it off inside, or excuse me, outside to Tommy Hart. You'll see number 24 of Queens right up top there in the middle of your screen. He actually turned the play back inside.
2nd and 1 from the 33. Murphy's going to throw. He's under pressure. Back into the middle. It's complete there to Alain Beaudoin. Beaudoin stopped at the 35, but should have the first down. And this passing offense doesn't need any more hurdles to clear, but it is snowing harder here in Lennoxville. The first snowfall of the season couldn't have come at a worse time for the Bishop's Gators.
Number 32, Mark Johnson.
And Mark Johnson is the injured player for Queens that they are attending to. Jim Murphy decides wisely to go over and talk to the coaches on the sidelines. And we see Matt Nealon. He is working with the receivers and the quarterbacks at Bishop's. Remember Matt Nealon, a great receiver from St. Mary's University. All-Canadian 2 years when he was hooking up with Chris Flynn.
Bishop's better hurry here. Not much time on the clock. 5:50 and counting. 1st and 10 from the 35 for Bishop's. The Gators need 2 possessions, and there comes the time count violation as Murphy went to the bench to talk it over. It was too long getting the ball in play. Murphy doesn't like the call since there was an injured player on the field.
Well,
Delay a game, number 13, Bishops.
And he lost the argument.
Call against the Gators, 1st and 15, backing them up to the 30.
So it's 1st and 15 from the 30. 5:45 to play in the 4th quarter. Murphy looking to run. Now the pass, then to run. The ball is loose. The ball is loose. And Bishop's got it back. Are they ruling that an incomplete pass?
I think they're ruling that I think they're ruling that he's down, and he is still down. I believe that's Jim Murphy.
Yes, it is. Trevor Lovick is the backup quarterback for Bishop's, and he'll hurry to warm up. He's been signaling in place from the sidelines. And we'll return to Lennoxville in just a moment. You're watching the Ontario-Quebec final live on TSN. Jim Murphy leaves under his own power. But here's what happened to him.
Well, Jim Murphy realizes nobody's open downfield. He's trying to make something happen. Takes a lot of shots. You can see that's where he gets injured, but I'm sure he'll be back in after one play as it starts to snow even harder here in Lennoxville.
Trevor Lovick checks in. His season stats 17 of 28 for 235 yards.
And he's a guy that should be used to these conditions because he played with the Edmonton Huskies junior football out in Alberta.
What are you saying about Edmonton?
They get a lot of snow.
Lovick to throw. And he was looking for Alain Beaudoin. New quarterback, same old story for Bishops. Now, if they play CFL rules, Jim Murphy has to stay out for 3 plays.
They don't. He would only have to be out for 1 play. But nevertheless, it was 2nd down. They didn't get it, so Hiscox has to come in once again and kick the ball away.
7 of 28 for 72 yards and 3 interceptions. A day that Jim Murphy would like to forget. Hiscox punts once again. And it's really coming down now, folks. Mark Morrison from the 45 gets outside. And finally, he's brought down by John Gooby. Flag is down, and that's going against Bishops. So Queens will have even better field position.
Yeah, Chris Doucette just came in
and we'll get the call from Bob Murphy.
30 yards on the punt.
5-0 Bishops push from the rear. 5-0.
Chris Doucette gets the call, and it is snowing like a bandit here, folks. Yeah, it makes me think of home. We talked about it at the start of the game, who the weather would affect the most, the running offensive Queens or the passing offensive Bishops. 27 punts today. Here's ELBERG. Nothing doing. Christian Digg makes the stop. I'll tell you what, this Bishops defense has done the job today. And Digg does it there. But there's 4:16 to play. And Bishops is pretty much out of time.
It's a good job by Christian Digg, fending off the block and then just grabbing a piece of ELBERG's sweater to haul him down.
I hope you got a windshield wiper, a windshield scraper, because I got about 1 inch of ice on my forehead. Second down from the 44. Pendergast to throw over the head of his intended receiver, Ed Kidd. Kind of bizarre clock management there, Jamie.
Yeah.
You better water those plants there, fellas, or cover them. There's a frost warning in effect. Those aren't tomatoes. Jamie Galloway will come on to punt. That will be the 28th punt of the day. There was an NFL game earlier this year where there were absolutely no punts. And we did a CFL game earlier this season where there were just 7 between the two teams. But they've been busy today in bad conditions. High spiraling punt. Matt Legg from the 5. Legg looking for room, doesn't find much, gets up to the 15. 3:16 to play in the fourth quarter. Bishops has a long way to go, and you can hardly see across the field with the way the snow is falling now. This is really something. They've only had 52 yards in total offense here in the second half. They need to go 95 to score here.
And Trevor Lovig is still in at quarterback. Jim Murphy, who was injured, has not come back in the football game.
Down to 3 minutes. Lovig's pass is knocked down. I think that was Mike Boone who got his hand on it.
Now this is a situation where you would think that the Bishops offense would go to shotgun or have that spread formation where they can just sit Lovig back about 5 yards, directly snap the ball to him, so he doesn't have to worry about dropping back and planting his feet, because the conditions of this field are starting to deteriorate even more. Getting pretty slick on top.
On second down, Lovig steps up. And what a defensive play that was by Max Turner, who dove across to knock that ball down. The pass was intended for Jonas Raymond. You know, Jamie, we talked about the key receivers for Bishops. Beaudoin has 1 catch. Raymond has 1. The only man with more than 1 is Tom Hart. He's got 2. Hiscox the punt. End over end. Bounces at about the 40. This is Mark Morrison. Not much, but he didn't need much. He's brought down at the 45. 2:31 to play in the fourth quarter. Oh, it's been like you read about here in the last 10 minutes.
At the 45.
They could run the Iditarod here today.
Well, I think we're going to need a shovel up here in the booth in a few moments. Ian Breck hoping that his offense can finally get something going.
ELBERG. Oh, big gain, a first down, and he's finally brought down there by Joel Kruzic.
You know, Ian Breck has to be pleased with how his defense has played. It's been the lack of his offense, and now the defense has to come up big once again to get the ball back. The Bishops with 2:26 remaining.
And a flag is down on the play as well. Just what Bishop needed. And the penalty will move it all the way down to about the 15-yard line. Hard to see that far. Jingle bells, jingle bells. 2.5 to go in the fourth quarter. ELBERG with the carry again inside the 10.
By number 97, Ricky Harris.
I tell you, Queens really love to run off tackle. And then they just let Brad ELBERG to give him the ball deep in the backfield, and they let him read the blocks, and if he sees an opening inside, he just cuts it back.
21st carry of the game for Brad ELBERG, who is approaching 100 yards rushing. He's got 91. If he gets 9 more, he'll be pretty close to putting his team in the end zone. Here he comes again. ELBERG inside the 5.
Number 1, Brad ELBERG, the ball carrier.
But most importantly, the clock continues to run.
And you know, they continue to run behind Mark Robinson, number 62, the big offensive tackle for Queens. 6'2", 285 against Christian Dagg, 6'4", 255.
And they're down to the 4-yard line. 1:50 and counting to play in the fourth quarter. ELBERG loops it around outside, cuts it back in, and he is stopped at about the 3.
76, David Henry making the play along with Danny
1:39 to play in the fourth quarter, and the Bishops Gators, who have never been to the Vanier Cup, won't be going this year.
Brad ELBERG realizing off tackle's not there, tries to take it outside. Now he tries to cut. You can see all the turf coming up. His knee touches the ground, and the official blows it dead.
Damn it.
Well, a bad hair day, but a good football day for the Queens Golden Gales. Second down, ELBERG. Touchdown, Queens.
Number 1, Brad ELBERG, 4 yards.
Brad ELBERG in for the score. 24-6 with a convert to come. And the Queens Golden Gales can celebrate in the snow because next week they'll be playing indoors at C.I.A.U. And Brad ELBERG has been a major part of the story.
When we talk about how they like running off tackle, you see Paul Kozan, the lead back. He just takes on John Gooby, number 11, and just a little bit of a seam in there for ELBERG to get into the end zone. One of the top running backs in the C.I.A.U. All great running backs can sniff the goal line. Brad ELBERG's no different.
Kick is good. Gales 25, Gators 6.
Doug Hargraves has his Queens Golden Gales back to the Churchill Bowl, and they can try to avenge what happened to them last year against the Laurier Golden Hawks. Well, he's not a fan of the Eskimos, but you might want to be one out here today. And Brad ELBERG has gone over 100 yards rushing. Tack on the 95-yard kickoff return he had for a touchdown, and that's an outstanding day. 1:17 to play in the fourth quarter. The Bishops Gators will lose only one game this season. Their last game, their playoff game. It doesn't take long for this snow to accumulate on the field. As the Queens band has started to play again, perhaps not by choice, their instruments may be frozen to their lips. Oh, you got a feel for Ian Breck, don't you, Jamie?
Yeah, you really do. You know, he's had one of the best programs. Bishops have had one of the best programs the last number of years, even when Bruce Coulter was here. Bruce Coulter, now the retired coach, head coach, who's back on the staff. Ian Breck has done a great job this program, but
this is Tom Hart from the 20. And now there's some pushing and shoving right in front of the Queens bench. One of the players involved is Kent Rao, number 78 from Bishops.
And no question, that's frustration on the behalf of Bishops. You go through an undefeated season, you don't lose a game all season long, and it comes to the Dunsmore Cup, the final, and you realize you're not going on anymore. Your season ends right now. See Tom Hart trying to fight his way, loses his helmet on that hit.
Under a minute to play, and the clock will run. Jim Murphy is back in at quarterback for the Bishops Gators. He'll work out of the shotgun. 45 seconds and counting to play, and Murphy goes out to the sidelines and one hops that one.
Murphy's pass incomplete, looking for number 20, Tom Hart.
Time to celebrate on the Queens sidelines. 41 seconds till they can go back to their dressing room. And they've played their last game outdoors this year. The snap goes over Murphy's head. He's kicking it towards the end zone. Cloutzer ran right over it. Queens recovers it at the 1. What a day for the Queens Golden Gales. Another great defensive play is turned in. And I don't think Murphy was expecting the ball.
Kind of a day it's been for Bishop. You can see Jim Murphy looking to his right, and the ball is snapped. Chris Doucette, then Murphy kicks it, hoping that Claude Soren can recover it in the end zone, maybe for a 2-point safety.
5th turnover of the game by Bishops. And so now with 20 seconds and counting to play in the 4th quarter, the offense will finish it out for Queens, but it's the defense that has done the job today. And in is the backup tailback, Don Rorwick. Rorwick with the touchdown.
Number 35.
A little window dressing. It's 31-6 with a convert to come. Brad Elberg got his 100 yards rushing, and now Rorwick has a touchdown.
Jamie Galloway to try the extra point.
And these 11 seconds can't go fast enough for Ian Breck now. We will have a whole off-season to think about a 7-0 regular season and the playoff loss to Queens. And you know what, folks? It stopped snowing, kind of. Doug Hargraves, 17 years. And he's got his team headed back to the Churchill Bowl. So they'll kick it off. Probably run one more play, and that will do it. The Queens Golden Gales will head over to the Sky Dome, down the 401 from Kingston. And they're going for the 2nd year. There's a bit of a delay here as they get some things sorted out in the field, but now Galloway will kick it off.
Galloway to kick off.
And they're running the clock mercifully. So this will be the final play of the football game. Masaki Kono with the kickoff return. He's brought down at the 40. And that is the end of the football game. The Queens Golden Gales defeat the Bishops Gators 32-6. It's off to Sky Dome for the Golden Gales, the champions of the Ontario-Quebec Conference for 1992. We'll come back with our TSN Turning Point, the player of the game, in a moment. Time now for the TSN Turning Point, which is brought to you by Sony, and it's no surprise.
Scored in the opening kickoff in the 2nd half with Queens leading 8-6. They kick it to Brad Elberg. He starts right, then he cuts back left, and he takes it 95 yards for the touchdown, putting this game out of reach for the Bishops Gators.
That's the TSN Turning Point. A cash donation will be made to the Coaching Association of Canada for the training and development of Canadian coaches in amateur sport on behalf of TSN and Sony. Sony Trinitron XPR Square. It will change the way you feel about everything you see. And our Geo player of the game, Brad ELBERG, joins us now. Brad, you had 2 kickoff returns this year for 62 yards. You had 1 in this game for 95. Were you surprised you had that much room?
I wasn't surprised that we had that much room. The guys did a fabulous job making a wall, and when you don't get touched all the way down the field, it's pretty easy to score.
Brad, your team comes down to Bishops. You're facing a hostile crowd, tough weather conditions, and you come up with a win. What was the key today?
I think the key today was everybody on our team playing 60 minutes. The defense did a fabulous job shutting down. They got a high-power offense, and I don't think 6 points is what they counted on scoring today, so you got to credit the defense. I did a fantastic job, and the offense did it when we had to.
Brad, congratulations, and we'll see you next week at the Churchill Bowl.
Right on. Thanks a lot, guys.
And as Brad ELBERG is our player of the game, Gio will contribute $500 to the scholarship fund of his school, Queen's University. The final score, Queens 32, Bishop 6. Back to Lennoxville in a moment on TSN.